Okay, good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Smudcast number 370, Why the Elder Scrolls Will Always Be Better Than Fallout. Okay, so already a controversial title. We're talking about two Bethesda properties. I don't know if they're Bethesda games anymore, but someone owns them in some capacity, whether it's Microsoft or ZeniMax or I don't know, one of those companies. So anyway, this is from WhatCulture, and this came out 3 years ago in September. Has about 80,000 views, and if you don't know WhatCulture Gaming, they're pretty big. They got over 1.5 million subs. So big company, big channel, and they do all these weird videos like this. They compare things. They do top 10 lists. They do all sorts of silly analysis, which is innocent enough. And obviously, when we hear stories or opinions like this, it's going to be heavily biased. They're not going to be very analytical, because if they were, this video would be 4 times as long, maybe. They would be comparing things in stages. Yeah, this is only 8.5 minutes. I mean, you can't really compare two movies, let alone...
It'd be longer than Mahler's entire repertoire of videos.
Yeah, it'd gigantic.
Longer than his entire channel.
Yeah, so to do a proper comparison, I believe you can do a proper comparison, even though they are very different settings and genres. You can focus not on that. You could focus on the actual storytelling elements and the actual gameplay elements and say, why do these things work within their genre and why do they not work in their own setting or in their own world? So there's lots of different ways we can assess these games and do a pretty accurate mathematical comparison. If we want to do a rating system and everything's consistent, we could probably do that. It would take a lot of time. I would not want to do that because they're just great games. They're fun to play. I don't need a numerical value to prove that to anyone. I don't think you do. You enjoy them. If not, then it's no big deal. However, I would recommend playing at least one of them if you haven't touched them at all. And if it's Fallout, start with New Vegas. If it's the Elder Scrolls, I mean, you can start anywhere really, but I mean,
if you have Game Pass, all of these games are available on Game Pass now.
They've been out for a while, yeah.
And so it's like extremely easy to get a hold of all of them.
Right.
Even give Fallout 76 a chance.
You know what? Nowadays, because they fixed a lot of the bugs, you can actually play Fallout 76 relatively easily. And
yes, as someone who's played since day one, they fixed a lot of the problems.
Yeah. So as bad as it was, like that was probably the worst launch I've ever, even worse than the BioWare games I've seen. Out of all the games that have ever launched, that's probably the worst.
Elder Scrolls Online was pretty bad. You had people falling through the world with regularity in Elder Scrolls Online.
I think it still is.
ESO was pretty
76
crap
was bad,
on
but not as nearly as bad as ESO.
It certainly was more.
Meanwhile, Skyrim just works.
76 was more. It was bigger. Fallout 76 was bigger because it was hyped up. There were all these videos reviewing it. There was all these people who bought into it. And
the problem is a lot of the people who had complaints didn't listen to what they said or didn't like they hyped their own selves up and expected more than what was coming. It's like it's like as an avid Bethesda fan, you never hype yourself up over Bethesda games.
No, believe me, no fan base hypes themselves up overboard more than the Smash fans.
Well,
that's true.
That is what happens when you're one of the bigger first party partners.
Especially now with one character left.
One character left?
Oh boy!
One DLC character for Smash.
Supposedly, because there's also, on a side tangent about that, there's supposedly a rumor where we'll get more like randomly dropping DLC, but that's its own thing.
Oh, so you're saying they're going to release a game after the DLC because that's the last DLC they'll make for that version of Smash.
Well, the last Smash game they'll make, period, for a long time because it's Ultimate.
Exactly. So they're
also, it's like, I will say at least one thing is the entire fan base is like, Sakurai, take a break, please. Like, we don't want you to die.
Yeah,
because he always looks so tired.
Here's how to distinguish a normal fan from the crazy fanboys that want everything they want in Smash. The normal fans actually want Sakurai to finally take a fucking break.
It's the same with the Final Fantasy XIV community. Whenever we see Yoshi P, everyone's like, Yoshi, please, take a break, please. You aged 30 years in the span of 10.
I mean, well, with an MMO, it can't be helped given the nature of how MMOs are developed. But
Well,
the same
14. It's 14 especially because of how much of a crap show that was.
I mean, isn't Endwalker the last one for that one?
No, that's just the end of the overarching story that has started with 2.0. They're starting a new story after Endwalker.
Endwalker's basically the Final Fantasy IV tribute, right?
Kind. They mix and match stuff because, like in Shadowbringers, there was Final Fantasy 3. There was a bunch of different Final Fantasy stuff.
Yeah, well, to keep things simple, well, the big things for Endwalker is the fact that the Paladin got added back ever since 11, and they're on the
he's the cover boy.
Yeah, the Paladin got added to 14 finally, and they're on the moon. So that's basically
Paladin has been there. Just saying.
Well, Paladin's getting more emphasis.
He's the cover boy, just like in Shadowbringers it was Dark Knight, in Stormblood it was Monk, in Heaven's Reward it was Dragoon, and in 2.0 Realm Reborn it was Black Mage.
In that case, again, like you said, Paladin's the cover boy, and they're on the fucking moon. So
yes.
All right, here is Great Scott. Thanks for the donation. Oh, wow, the video I threw in suggestions. 1, lol, you're in for a dumb ride of an argument that Tokyo drifts around subjectivity and Madragons are better than cockroaches with miniguns and choppers. I don't know if you guys remember fighting dragons in Skyrim. You pretty much eclipsed them rather quickly. They became like flies.
Yeah, what's funny is they kind of did dragons better in 76 with... what are they called? The Scorch Beasts. That's what they're called.
Okay.
They're just better. They're just better programmed dragons. They have relatively less issues, and they're smarter.
And we're comparing to
in Skyrim, if you play your cards right with how fast you can gain stats across all your skills and how to distribute them across different skill trees, it's like, yes, it was very quick to, after like a couple dragons, you could just annihilate them.
Yeah, whereas in what version of Fallout you're playing, I remember Cazador still being a bitch. Always.
Deathclaws are always terrifying.
Doesn't matter how strong you are, you will die if you're not careful, if you don't have...
Yaoguai.
Yaoguai are ridiculously powerful.
Guys. Oh my god.
Yeah.
The mutants in Vegas.
A Mirelurk could wreck your shit if you're not paying attention.
Yeah,
Fallout.
obviously the legendary beasts in Fallout 4, I think, when they evolve or whatever, or mutate, they become really strong. So there's all kinds of challenges in these games, or at least Fallout games, that don't make you turn into a god, even though you have an arsenal that makes Commando look like, I don't know, someone with squirt guns or something. It just...
You know what? Something I want to say real quick. The whole legendary beast thing. It kind of sounds like Fallout wanted to have a crossover with a JRPG, but they couldn't. But they still kept the name. Legendary Beasts.
Well, I don't know what that was all about in Fallout 4, because Fallout 4 is kind of like, all right, yeah, they're just doing gunplay better.
It tried to do more RPG stuff, but then it watered it down a lot. Like they kind of like the legendary weapons and stuff they've kind of made better in 76.
Right.
Because they have more perk pools, they have more ways that you can actively farm for them, because like the end game for that game is basically legendaries for everything.
There were so many...
And now they just... Oh yeah, go ahead.
Things to do, like build stuff and modify stuff and make bases, and there was so many features. You're like, okay, they got to streamline some of this, so they cut back on a lot of the opportunities to focus on just one thing. But the focus was apparently just gunplay and shooting, which is fine. But
yeah, I mean, to be fair, New Vegas and 3 did not have the best gunplay.
No, that's understood. But it was serviceable, and it was always second to the storytelling and what you were doing as your story and mission progressed. Correct. And that is why I will say New Vegas is the highlight of all the Fallout experience. Even as much
you're
as
not really... You don't play Fallout for the gameplay.
Yeah, true. To be fair.
Yeah, I say that the same thing about...
We still definitely recommend New Vegas. You don't miss out on anything by not playing 3.
It's basically it's just taken in reverse.
Yeah,
you're hunting for Liam Neeson.
New Vegas is just 3 in the Mojave. That's it.
Well, I tend to see even Mass Effect the same way. You play it for the story or the dialogue options. You want to see what happens with these people in their plots. So
For what fuck all that amounts to in the end.
well, yeah, that's obviously a problem, but you do that because of all the effort they put into the dialogue communication system, and as simple as it is, that's enough to keep people coming back.
I mean, I would highly suggest, if you like just good story, I would highly suggest 14 for that exact reason. It's it's like the systems and combat for MMO is, standard is, but the story is the selling point for that game.
I would say the same about the early Assassin's Creed games. There was definitely a plan there for an overarching story that, for the most part, it's still there, and most of the first 5 games is just some of the same bullshit. But the story, especially the assassin plots, really do hook you in, especially the Ezio trilogy.
I will say that
I still love 4 personally. With Edward.
Four's problem.
Out of all the shit we get now, 4 and Origins are still some of the best ones, some of the better ones we've gotten recently.
The problem with 4 is that the Assassin's Creed game keeps getting in the way of the pirate game that you're playing.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it still does both. There's still enough of a balance between the two that you can still have an enjoyable experience. But I love Assassin's Creed 4. It's my second favorite game in the series. But the problem is this Assassin's Creed game keeps getting in the way of my pirate game. Wait, do you mind my asking which one is your absolute favorite?
2.
My man. Although I prefer
you should not. I should not be like
Revelation just because of the
another assassination mission. Like,
it's a tie between
the highlight of Assassin's Creed.
3 or Revelations and 4 for me, just because Revelations is the ending for Ezio. His whole lifeline.
Revelations out of his 3 games. Well, first of all, Ezio is the only one that's had more than one game. I don't know fucking why. But
he's one of the best written characters.
I'll say this about Revelations: some of it is at least a little redundant. It's just the overall experience that you're going after, and it is the conclusion to one of the best assassins in the whole series, if not the best.
To be fair, most of Assassin's Creed is very repetitive, and it's in the sense of how the game works, just as a game. So,
at least the Desmond Saga tried to do unique things for each game, like do things here and there after Altair's journey.
Well,
it's only after 4, with the exception of Origins to an extent, that they really dropped the ball.
Well, to bring
it
back,
became the Ubisoft sandbox.
Let's go back to Bethesda.
Yes, to bring it back to Fallout, I would say the style of dialogue ever since Fallout 1 has remained the same until we got to Fallout 4, where they decided to have a cutscene-ish style with like
Byers. They wanted a voiced protagonist, and I can see wanting a voiced protagonist. It's not like I don't have an inherent issue with that.
Right.
But you kind of limit yourself unless you are spending a lot of time and money on recording dialogue. Like
recording current dialogue,
which Mass Effect ended up being like the Dominator on, despite the ending.
This is the problem, because as soon as you do that, not only do you double or if not triple your work for dialogue, you have to then take into account the role-playing idea of the player, because with Shepard, it's pretty basic. You have 3 general responses, and the middle one is just generic. With Fallout, you could be goofy, you could be silly, you could be murderous, you could be a lunatic, you could be stupid. There's all these variations depending on your stats, and you really have to multiply your effort. And they didn't do that. They just maybe gave it an extra touch here or there in some.
Well, no, and then with 4, it was horrible because they would have the character say the complete opposite thing that the dialogue indicated.
That was a big problem too, and that's to some extent that's Mass Effect's fault, just because in the original, you're what you're saying in Mass Effect, like this option you pick is not what you actually say. It's just mostly the tone is the same. But yeah, it got really bad in Fallout 4 where you try to essentially say no and you'd still be saying yes.
Like in 76, they at least avoid that issue. They just have it be a dialogue window that pops up that it's just assumed that you respond. Like
Yeah.
there's no voiced player characters anymore.
Yeah.
The absolute nadir of that was when you go to the town that's all Mr. Handies.
Oh yeah.
And you go into the diner, and whatever the line is where is basically the reveal that they cook and eat the human guests. You have 4 dialogue choices, and 3 of whatever the choices are, 3 of the spoken lines is just the sole survivor going, "Wait, what?"
Because it's the writer wanting to get a joke out from the area and not knowing how to write 4 different ways to get to the same joke.
Yeah,
It's what happened there.
And we can
so you have 4 different options, and 3 of them are the same. What you say is irrelevant because your character just goes, "Wait, what?"
Well, it's very similar to the concept of the Elder Scrolls, where you still have the silent protagonist, and you zero in on the character's face, like you do in Fallout or the Fallout engine style of communication, and they just say their bit, and you respond with text, which we have been very happy with since Black Isle Studios did their games, just with less dialogue options. So we're okay with this style. We're okay with the format. It's the content and the plot and the characterization of all these characters and ourselves that we like. And that's why we keep coming back.
I've never heard people complain when that's supposed to be like a customizable character, complain about having a silent protagonist in a game.
No, you're right, because we play it
It's
like
always
an
the
RPG.
reverse.
We see it like an open world sandbox, and the character is part of that as well. So it's not
Like
just...
in Dragon Age 1, I don't ever remember anyone complaining about the silent
Exactly.
warden.
Yeah, we know exactly who he is, what he's doing. He's a little bit more formidable than the guys around him at level 1, and then we learn out why and how he becomes stronger. And it just goes from there, and that's fine. We don't need anything more.
And then we get Hawk, which, as much as I love Hawk, it's funny because I never can. Whenever I play Dragon Age 2, I can never not have default Hawk, like the canonical version, because that's just Hawk. It's like same with Shepard. That the default human male, with the shaved head and the
what ends up happening.
Well, that's because
you get
that's just Shepard.
At least with Shepard, the default Shepard is based on a person's face.
Well, that's
But they use a face model for that, they didn't for anything else.
That's the issue.
It's just weird because like I can't see
not female Shepard until 3.
Well,
so
right, but that's the issue with that whole concept of using the Dr. Paul Ekman heads. They need a template, and the template was this guy called Mark Vanderloo. So every other iteration of that customizable face changer thing is just a retarded version of Mark Vanderloo. So it's almost like, I could try to make Obama, but it's never going to look very good or whatever. So
yeah,
it's just a toy. It's just an element that they said, hey, we can do this in Unreal. It's like, yes, you can. Why would you? Like, you can do that, but you're going to get some really scary iterations. And that's normal Mass Effect. Then we get to Andromeda. Holy hell. That is...
I have not played Andromeda, and I have no plans ever to.
You don't...
I technically have it for free because of EA Play, and I refuse to even install it.
If they can...
The faces look so bad.
Yeah, they based
Andromeda.
the male and female rider off of models. These gorgeous people, and they look not very attractive in the engine. Standard, vanilla, not touching the face. So...
Yeah, it's... I mean, as someone who went to school for this, it's either the rigger got lazy or the modelers got lazy, and if they just didn't model them properly.
Yeah, it wasn't an issue of polygons. Yeah, it wasn't an issue of we need more detail. It's like no, it's bad.
Yeah, you can crank that up as high as you want. If the base model underneath is not good, it does not matter.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because female rider, it looks like they deliberately made her uglier than the actual woman is.
Oh yeah, I mean, haven't you seen what they did with the woman who they based Abby off of? The woman they based Abby off of is actually relatively pretty.
Well, yeah,
for an actress, and then unfortunately she plays Abby.
It's the same with Miranda. There was a simple loss in translation in Mass Effect 2, and not to say Miranda's model is bad, but there's the imperfections of Yvonne's face.
There's some like
pop out.
weirdness to her at
There's
times.
Yeah, the eyes, the lips, the hairline. Something is like something's a bit, and that's kind of cool though, because it wasn't a 1-to-1. It was stylized to a bit. So I was like, all right, I can see what's going on, but she's not the perfect woman.
In that case, it helped and hurt at the same time.
Yes, I think it was an okay attempt, and then you have like other designs like Jack, which is just over the top, weird. So
but Jack's Jack, and no one questions Jack. It's just that's Jack.
It was also fairly early in that, like that was fairly new technology at the time, if I recall. That whole face capture.
Not too much, but just enough to make a decent enough impact on the whole situation.
Right, and we compare that again to Skyrim, for example, and you could make your character right at the start, and it's just all these races, and it's like, okay, great, I could run with that, and it's a pure fantasy RPG idea. You don't have to worry too much about the details, and you have your
Unless
stats,
your extra credits,
and off you go. So, more RPG-ish, I guess, because it's a fantasy setting, I would say. All the stats and this and that, as opposed to...
The fantasy setting is pretty much the progenitor of the modern RPG.
Right.
I mean, Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, that's
how it
goes.
That's the genesis of the whole thing. And in terms of video games, it was things like Ultima and the original Final Fantasy and all that.
I mean, those are all. Even those are pulling from Dungeons and Dragons. Like,
I mean, in terms within the video game industry specifically.
Yeah, that's true.
What's funny is in general it is D&D, but in terms of the video game specifically, what others nowadays pull their stuff from, it's the original the Final Fantasy series, Ultima, all those OGs.
Which is funny because they've yet to make a really good Dungeons and Dragons video game. They've all been not great.
I mean, what do you think would work better? Just straight up making it as close to D&D as possible, or just doing something like on the level of Skyrim or Fallout or any of the others?
It would depend on what you were trying to do in the first place. But like
either a faithful game or a modern take game. It would depend. Yeah, it would depend on what you were trying to do specifically.
And
there would be a user base. There would be a player base for just a digital version of D&D that gives you everything you need to create a D&D campaign. Basically, what Divinity 2 did with their D&D world setup.
In a way, yeah.
It's basically just that, but as its own separate game with everything you could possibly need to run any D&D campaign you want within the confines of that.
Oh, do you mean like a video game that lets you play D&D, not like a
well, no, like
D&D.
there's also like a within the world of like a D&D branded fantasy game.
Baldur's Gate and Planescape Torment, are those not D&D settings?
Yes, but those
they are, aren't they?
Icewind Dale.
Those were never really translated later. Like those were the great games of fantasy RPGs in the West. And no one really took that template and said, we're going to do this again, aside from the Pathfinder guys. But Pathfinder's another flavor of D&D. So,
and I mean, you've got Larian Studios is doing Baldur's Gate 3 now.
That's true.
I haven't played it. I'm not speaking to its quality. I'm just saying.
Neither have I. I've only played Divinity from them.
It may just be me, but Dark Souls, at least the first one, always gave me kind of sort of D&D vibe. Just from the character creation and the way you progress.
I mean, maybe it's inspired by, but it's not D&D set. It doesn't use D&D mechanics.
No, I'm not saying it is. No, I'm not saying it is. It just gives me that vibe from how much freedom you have.
That's true.
It's just me.
Anyway, guys, we've been talking about 20 minutes. Let's get started with the video here. Here is some super chats and donations. Here's from Rama the Meme. Thank you. I was going to sleep, but I saw the title, WTF. Yeah, I know. It's kind of a silly clickbait. We'll get to it soon. Great, Scott. Thanks again for the donation. Sadly, I can't watch for long, but honestly, I think the Elder Scrolls world building seriously took a major dive since Skyrim and the lore is a shandified mess. Even some German chads with basic coding skills made a better mod game. And Daryl with more immersion. And Daryl. I've never heard of Daryl. Okay. Must be a really big mod.
Spell that?
And
ENDERAL.
And Daryl. Oh, yeah, that's like a fan-made spinoff.
There's all kinds of
I mean-
great mods for these games.
It's
with
a
most-
game.
I mean,
on
the ones I
Steam.
remember are Enderall, and the other one I remember, which is just a mod for Skyrim, it's like Falscar, I think.
Oh yeah, Falscar I've heard of.
Falscar, I think, is like the biggest Skyrim mod expansion out there. The biggest, currently.
All right. Anyway, let's get going. We got 8.5 minutes. This won't take too long, and I'm sure a lot of it's going to be very subjective, so we can easily take it apart. So let's go.
Yes.
Hello, angry nerds that have seen my title. I'm Ash, and I'm here today to talk to you about all things Bethesda, and more specifically, how the company now has 2 flagship franchises under its belt, evenly split between Fallout and The Elder Scrolls. It has got me wondering as to which deserves more motherly, tender loving in the coming years, since neither has a really solidly confirmed installment in their storyline basis for a good long time yet. We've got Elder Scrolls 6 on the way, but who knows?
And that's not a bad thing. Let them take their time. Don't rush it out the window, out
Yes.
the door.
Well,
So,
mean-
also, they now have these franchises. Now? They've had them for years.
Yeah, I mean, they've also got, Doom,
I mean, what?
Dishonored for whatever that's worth. I wish we got more Dishonored games.
yeah, I would like to see
I
more
know
of
nothing
those.
about Dishonored. I know nothing about Dishonored, so I can't say
It's,
shit.
it's like
It was a fun stealth game.
it's a streamlined
First
stealth.
person stealth.
Yeah.
And now, aren't the
Okay.
Dishonored devs making something else now?
Arcane, yeah, I think Arcane's working on another.
Deathloop is their game that's coming up soon, right?
Well-
right, yeah.
This is all under the assumption that they can produce quality, like they didn't do the last iteration. So
Except,
they got bought
Yeah.
out by Microsoft as well, so that might change things. Then they're doing
yeah, see, people got excited for that, and I'm like, this is not good, guys. Okay, it's not EA, but it's not like them. It's not like Microsoft is a great company to
Yeah.
be buying out studios.
plus
I mean, just remember, look what they did to Halo.
plus they're coming out with a third IP called Starfield next year. So we don't know what that's going to be like. We've barely seen anything about it. And I'm glad they're doing something new, but
Yeah, that's true.
it's still a creation engine game. It's still the same formula, I bet. They're just
I mean,
going to...
personally, I have no issue with the creation engine as wonked as it is. I'd rather them be working in an engine that they know than be forced to work in an engine they don't know and have that cause more problems.
Well, okay, remind me to go back to Halo for just a moment. What exactly was the general consensus on 4? I know 5 took a nosedive, but what was like the general opinion on 4?
I'm pretty sure it was relatively well received, and then people started to realize how dumb it is and how it was a rehash of 1, because they wanted to reset Chief back to Halo 1 because 343 can't come up with new ideas.
I mean, what was the gap in time between 1 and 4, release wise?
Almost a decade, I think.
Like a decade. I mean,
You have 1, 2, 3, ODST, Reach, then 4. Because after Reach, Bungie leaves. Then 4 comes out, I think, a year or 2 later.
So like
Yeah.
what, like 2013, 2014 was it?
Hold on.
So I mean,
Halo
Was it
4
e-
was 2012.
and the original Halo was, what was it? 01? 2001, close to that.
November 15th, 2001.
Yeah, so even someone like me who was never interested in Halo, but until recently, it's like I can see Halo 4 kind of making sense as a semi-reboot back to Halo 1 status, because it's been over 10 years, and it's like I kind of saw back then. I saw it as more of a back to basics kind of thing, rather than just
But
refreshing.
it's the problem. It's like the Star Wars problem where they wanted to reset back to the original, but the world doesn't follow that to fit to there. They had to force.
Exactly, they force it more just for the sake of status quo.
All the races that you were in conflict with were at peace with humans, and they had signed peace treaties with the humans. So there's no reason for them to be in a conflict when
Yeah,
Chief
so
pops out of his bubble.
Exactly. It's like, at least back then you would be forgiven for, like, seeing us more back to basics because, yeah, it's like, this was after the buyout, and, like, you just, like, definitely giving it a fair shot, and we did, and it's like, it was fine, but it wasn't quite up to standard.
Yeah, and then they made the
Then 5 took a nosedive.
well, 3 for 3 made the WoW mistake where they put all the important happenings in books. So when you played the game, you had no idea what was going on unless you read the books.
I mean, then again, that was a thing before the Microsoft buyout, wasn't it?
No, because the other games you could play in and of themselves and not have to know what was happening outside of the games. Like Reach was an adaptation of the Fall of Reach, the book, but you didn't have to read the Fall of Reach to play Reach.
Because
it wasn't a...
Because the game was basically the book in all the essential parts, right?
Yes. 5 left out key aspects of what happened, like explaining why Chief was doing what he was doing, or how that new Spartan...
and the Master Chief the collection tried to tie 5 back into 2 for no fucking reason.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, when I was playing the collection, it was like, why is Buck? Is that who it is?
Spartan Locke. Why is like I know what you're about to say. It's like, why the hell is Spartan Locke here in Halo 2 for no fucking reason?
I was like, I played Halo 2. I don't remember this being here.
It's like, at least they didn't go all the way back to Halo 1. They at least recognized that 2 was the much more famous game. But even then, it's like, one scene at the beginning and end of Halo 2 Anniversary, it's like, that's nothing.
Yeah. Like, the only reason I was even relatively like, oh, Microsoft owns Bethesda now, is because they also own Obsidian, which means we possibly could get a remake or a something for New Vegas. Or New Vegas 2, because since they own Obsidian. One
little thing about Halo 2 in relation to Spartan Locke being shoehorned in. At least they didn't do it for the whole game. At least it was just at the beginning and the end. They left.
Yeah, but still,
they left the main game of Halo 2 completely intact, just because it was a remaster. So, thankfully. But moving on back to Bethesda.
All right, here's Joe Crazy for the 5. Thank you. They had Wolfenstein, but then they kneecapped it with 2. And
Wolfenstein.
And then took it behind the shed with Youngblood. Yeah, Youngblood was not something worth talking about.
And it never will be. Meanwhile, the only one that really is doing very, very well is Doom. Thankfully.
Because the devs know what they want, know what the players want.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, at least with Doom, because Doom is really the granddaddy of all modern shooters.
Yeah, it's always been dumb shooter fun, and they understand they don't need to be more than dumb shooter fun.
And they added story elements to it in a way that didn't mess up the status quo.
Yeah,
they have story, but it doesn't get in the way of the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it just pushes you along to go kill the next group of baddies, which is not a bad thing.
Exactly.
At least it's blatant about it. It's not like Call of Duty where they try to pretend like, oh, here's story, and then it's just a way to get you to kill more whatever the villains are of that game.
Yeah, so to go back to the videos, like Microsoft's involvement with with all these franchises, whether it be the Bethesda ones or Doom or Halo, it's like their track record is mixed at the very least. And it's like we'll definitely be getting to Bethesda itself over the course of the video. It's just mainly to set up the stage for what we're going to be talking about.
Let's get back to the video.
Yes.
Knows I'm rather that. The company will surely nurture both, but truthfully, which deserves all the hype and which is starting to show its age? I'm Ash from WhatCulture, as I think I've mentioned, and this is why The Elder Scrolls will always be better than Fallout. Please don't kill me. Fallout and Elder Scrolls have long since been two sides of the same RPG coin, which you wouldn't necessarily expect from sprawling high fantasy and nuclear science fiction, but both have a lot of technical blood running through their veins from the same fountain. The same fountain of blood. That's a common analogy. Yes, both Fallout 4 and Skyrim use the same creation engine, which I'm sure you already know, to bring their gameplay even closer than ever. There's a
I mean, yeah, but that's about the only similarities between them, is that the newer ones were built on the same engine, so they play the same way.
Also, didn't Elder Scrolls blatantly come first?
For Bethesda, yes. I don't remember when Arena was released.
Yeah, plus we're talking about iterations using the Hero engine, and before that it was the isometrics with Fallout. So that was the
Arena was 94.
Yeah, and Fallout was 97. So yes, Elder Scrolls came first, but Elder Scrolls has always been the same style of first-person kind of game.
Yes, Elder Scrolls has maintained its core of the whole first-person RPG. Your choices matter to an extent, kind of gameplay, and it has never changed outside. It has only changed outside of the core, while the core itself has remained exactly the same.
It's changed it's changed its the way the
presentation
shows itself. The presentation, yeah, but the core mechanics are still all functionally the same.
Yes, and they have definitely, to certain extents, they have developed and gotten better over the course of the franchises.
Yeah, which is a good thing. A game should always have a core that stays the same, but the way you produce
continuously improves.
Yes, that's how it should be. Instead of throwing everything out one game and then putting stuff back in that people wanted because you wanted to make it easy.
Yeah,
Dark Souls 2.
That's a whole other beast, especially since it's very evident because Dark Souls 3 went directly back to what made Dark Souls good in the first place. And very blatantly, I should add. It was a complete 180 back to where it all started.
Back to for Bethesda example. Fallout 4 to 76, like just the core, like even the conversation systems, they reverted back to Fallout 3 style and Elder Scrolls style of you start talking to someone, the camera focuses on the person and a text box pops up and you are a silent protagonist.
The problem with 4 to 76 is just that everything else outside of the core aspects changed so much that it's so much of a heel turn.
All right.
And some things got better, like the special system got better, the perk system got better than 4.
No, you're right. Well, I'm not saying with with a lot of things changed for the worse.
The perk system getting better than 4's is advancing back to where we were before that, because the perk system got notably worse in 4 than it had been in any game before it.
Yes, that is
true.
And
by any game, I mean 3 in New Vegas, because I don't remember 1 and 2 having perks, really.
They did. It was basically the same system as 3 in New Vegas, where you had like a list of perks that you would unlock at certain levels, but it didn't have like the leveling up of that 4 did, where you had to go down the poster, whatever they used in game for 4.
Yeah, you add stars to your...
in 76 they actually they made that better, because now you have like cards that you get that you can level up the cards if you get the same, but you can also like you get packs every 2 levels. They give you 5 random perks, and then you could equip them depending on the number of special stats you have in a certain level, in a certain stat. So, and like each perk has a different amount of points that it takes up to fit into that special tree, that special stat tree. So it's more customizable, and it's still somewhat similar to how it was in like 3 in New Vegas, where you don't have to go down a tree to get to the perks you want. You can just beeline for the perks you want, because you can also then just outright buy perks every so often as well. So.
All right.
Wealth of experience we had in both games, but for someone that's never really been able to connect with the wastelands of Fallout, it really seems to me like they're putting off a more unique and interesting game for the sake of more sickly radiation-burned landscapes. And Fallout 76 isn't even what the fans have been asking for as the nougat cherry on the cake. The Fallout games are in no...
I don't know, I think there was some interest in Fallout 76, maybe not directly asking for an online experience, but that's the logical step for a lot of these games. That's the logical step for Warcraft when it came out in 3, everyone was like, hey, why can't I keep my army after every level? Why can't I have a persistent character? So it's natural to want to do that, to have this multiplayer experience where everything...
I mean, and people were wondering what the world was like right after the bombs fell anyway. And 76 is set 20 years after the bombs fell.
Well, and Fallout 4 feels like it's set 20 years after the bombs fell. So at least they actually made there be a good reason for it this time around.
Yeah, 4 gives an explanation for the time skip.
76 does as well. You were part of a group that was meant to be let out after 20 years.
No, I know 4 gives an explanation for the time skip, but the world still feels like it hasn't gone anywhere in 200 years.
Also, 4 has the advantage of actually showing you the bombs dropping. And you being there. Which helps with the explanation.
I mean, 76, you were already in the vault when the bombs were dropping, and Appalachia wasn't targeted.
I mean,
by any of the bombs.
The player characters of 4 and 76 are supposed to be different people, aren't they?
Say again? Yes. They're completely. The lone survivor was frozen. The 76 group were knowingly went in and were knowing they were going to get out within 20 years.
So 4 and 76, they both have the 20-year time skip, don't they?
4 is 15 years.
Oh, 15 years. Well, it's close enough.
15 years after no. He said because 4 is 15 years after Fallout 3. Because one of the companions, what's his name? He's in Camp Little Light in 3. He's the leader of Camp Little Light.
Oh,
the kid.
Yes, the what's his name? The doctor companion.
Arcade.
McCready, yes. That's McCready from the Camp Little Light. He's the same person. He even talks about being in Camp Little Light in 4. So 4 takes place 200 years or 20 years or 15 or 20 years after 3, and then 3 is 200 years after the bombs fell. 200 years, yeah, because it's 2020 70 something, I think. The exact time, I don't remember the exact dates though. So,
well, the plot goal of Fallout 4 is the opposite of Fallout 3, in that 3 you're looking for your dad, and in 4 you're the dad looking for your son. And the plot reveal is a lot more interesting. The plot itself is kind of lame, but the way you get there is interesting. So there's lots of characters along the way. There's lots of factions.
The plot would have been better served if they didn't have the base building in 4.
The face.
Meanwhile, New Vegas is just a revenge story.
The base building.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is Bethesda needs a better plot than find the missing person.
Yeah.
Yeah, why do you think New Vegas does something so different? It's just a revenge story, but still, they take it in a different direction.
And at least in 76, it's, hey, figure out what happened to cause this plague.
True.
To kill everyone that did survive when the bombs fell. Yeah. It's like, it was a what happened. Then in the first DLC, it was people coming back.
Well, it's funny that we could argue the same plot setup or the intro to Planescape Torment is you die in a slab, and in Fallout New Vegas you die in a cutscene. You're magically brought back by some doctor who can perform miracles.
To be fair to Fallout Elder Scrolls, every single game starts with you as a prisoner.
Yeah,
but that's a setup. That's not like
but there's nothing wrong with having plot.
Because the driving plot of Fallout New Vegas and the driving plot of Planescape Torment are not anywhere near the same thing.
No.
Fair.
No,
I don't know.
They just have the same setup, as opposed to and Bethesda. One of Bethesda's big problems in a lot of their games is they make the game open world and like this broad, sprawling thing where you can do whatever you want, but they try to make the main plot seem like it's very
linear,
urgent.
Yeah,
like this big Oblivion crisis. The Oblivion crisis is coming. The planes are merging. Oblivion is going to invade our world. But you can spend like 600 hours not doing anything about it.
Also, Skyrim at the beginning with the implication that the Civil War and the Alduin plot are one and the same. They're fucking not. And they're so short compared to all the side content.
Yeah.
We got...
Makes you believe that... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, someone in chat said Fallout 4 is set 200 years later and no one swept the floor in the meantime. That's what I meant when I said it doesn't feel like it's 20. It feels like it's 20 years later.
Yeah, that's the problem with Bethesda's Fallout. They don't want to move the world forward. They want to keep it feeling post-apocalyptic, when it makes no sense for it to still be feeling post-apocalyptic, because that's not how humans would function.
Which is why I dread a New Vegas 2, because of that specifically.
It depends.
I mean, even at least New Vegas felt like they were trying to clean up the Mojave somewhat.
Yeah. Well, that was it, because by the time of Fallout 2, which Fallout 2 was like, I don't remember how long after the war Fallout 2 was supposed to be set.
It was 100 years?
Maybe, because I think the first one is relatively soon after the war, and then Fallout 2 is 80 years after that. People are like living in towns and cities and stuff, and they have houses, and they've built up from the ruins of the old world, and then on the East Coast, decades after that, they are still living like they just came out of the vaults because the bombs just fell.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what she has to say.
Oh, way back. They quite literally pale in comparison to their competition. Wandering around the scrap metal towns of Fallout and going through the irradiated wastelands only serves to offer 1 or 2 shades of brown and green, and it gets pretty old pretty quickly, I'd argue. There's nothing particularly exciting or breathtaking with the environment of Fallout, not at least in the same way as there is for the Elder Scrolls.
I mean, I get for all the crap people give 4, at least it had more. They kind of did have differential environments. It wasn't just brown and green.
Yeah, they definitely put more emphasis into it compared to other games.
Yeah, I mean, like with New Vegas, it makes sense because it's in the middle of the desert, but 3 didn't have that excuse. It was just green.
Okay, yeah, New Vegas, you can forgive it because it's literally the Mojave Desert in Nevada, which there isn't much there even in the real world.
Yeah.
And 3 was weird because it was literally green. Like, there's a green light filter over all of Fallout 3. Fallout 4 did have somewhat more vibrant environments. At the same...
I assume people patch that green filter out with a mod the first chance they get.
Oh yeah, that's a mod I run in any playthrough I do of Fallout 3.
Yes.
I would hope Fallout 76 looks even nicer than that if it's really supposed to take place in an area where no bombs hit.
Yes, it does. It's very vibrant. It's a very pleasant to yes, if you get like really down and to like zoom right in on the leaves and rocks, of course you're going to get some low poly textures, but that's not the important part you're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah, that's inevitable.
The whole of Appalachia looks really, really nice. It's a very once they got the lighting issues fixed from the launch, currently as it stands right now, Appalachia is a very lovely place to wander around and explore as a game. Like it's a good. There's a lot of good world storytelling as opposed to just outright an NPC telling you what's going on. Like tons of environmental storytelling in 76. They really tried their hardest with environmental storytelling in this game or in that game.
Well, that's a plus. But like, I mean, I know we're still early and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but is her main argument here really like it's better because it's more like
prettier?
New player friendly?
No, there's a bigger color palette in Skyrim.
Well, yeah, she's saying there's a bigger color palette, which is going to make it more inviting to to someone who's not familiar with the series. Like, is that what it is? It's more new player friendly, and that's why it's better than Fallout, which looks uglier, and so it's not going to draw in new players the same way.
I mean, here's my experience. The first Fallout game I played was New Vegas. The first Elder Scrolls game I played was Skyrim. I saw no difference in terms of my appeal towards those games. I treated them the same.
Mine was 3 and Oblivion. And what drew me into Fallout far more than than Elder Scrolls was the music. Like the soundtrack just is, in general, I still love that era of music now because of Fallout. Like I listen to it on the regular because I love that style of music.
For me, Elder Scrolls edges out a little bit.
Now, that's a fair point. The issue is that, I mean, you can credit them for selecting that music, but they didn't write the music
That's true.
That is true.
Fallout. I mean, they wrote
some of the ambient stuff for Fallout is really good too, just like the actual Fallout soundtracks.
Yeah,
I do really enjoy that.
Although Oblivion, I think, still has my favorite soundtrack of any Bethesda game.
Fair point.
Well, they did hire a lot of cool actors like Wade Newton to be the voice of the radio guy, Mr. New Vegas. Three Dog was in the previous game. So they do a lot of effort to build the world through whatever media they got, whether it's music or voice or the logos of the products of the era and all the lore.
Speaking of actors, both of these franchises have, at least on one occasion, have had a Star Trek actor in them.
Oh yeah, that's almost good. There's so much talent running around in these games, so there's lots of reasons to enjoy them, and for different reasons. I wouldn't make this a complete apples and oranges comparison because obviously there's similarities, but once you're running around a fantasy world with a certain plot, as opposed to running around a post-apocalyptic world in, I don't know, rural, semi-urban, if you can call it urban anymore, America, your mind and your understanding of this setting is different. So
on the measure of immersion with the open world, Skyrim does edge out.
I'm trying to understand, because immersion is a very difficult thing to ascertain, because you're talking about, well, I like fantasy genre, and how does this relate to other fantasy settings in my mind, like Tolkien? It's pretty close. There's all these mountains and rivers and all kinds of trees and forests and snowtops, this and that, giants. Okay, fantasy, got it. Feels very fantasy. I look at post-apocalyptic whatever in Fallout, it's like, yeah, rubble everywhere kind of freaks me out. Weird roads and weird railway paths and all kinds of weird looking stretches of land. I'm like, how did that naturally occur? And how did we get like broken down furniture? And the only understanding is it's hundreds of years old, so all the wood would have rotten, and that would have attracted insects and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of weird design in Fallout, like all the buildings, because they're so old and decrepit. So it makes me go, wait a second, no one's been here, but I'm finding all this loot. No one possibly went through these desks. So there's a bit of a weird design element to Fallout, but there's also a lot of weird design elements in Skyrim, like the dungeons that have a immediately escapable door right when you defeat the boss. Like no one else has been here, and all of a sudden there's a ladder climbing right to the entrance, which is like 2 feet away from how I entered.
Yeah, I mean, game logic is always going to break through at some point.
Right. I mean, it's just the design for visuals is sort of odd. All the other stuff is cool, like all the stuff with the technology that they have a solar panel for a weapon. Like that makes sense. Everything sort of works neatly together. They want to control water, which generates power. The Hoover Dam's still there. All that is well done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the characterization of Fallout as opposed to the characterization of Skyrim. Skyrim is just a wilderness. It's this big empty area of trees and rivers and settlements of random people. You get a town here and there, sure. but it's not as characterized. It's not as
Yeah, like the world of Fallout itself has a character to it that the Elder Scrolls doesn't, but that's just because of the setting and like the
Yes.
way.
In a way, yes.
the setting I think is more fleshed out. The setting has more character to it, and that's why it's more memorable. That's why the DLCs and the characters in those DLCs are so personified. Like with Joshua Graham, he's the most unforgettable character out of all of New Vegas. There's other great characters in Old World Blues, my favorite DLC of all time. All kinds of great little side characters in there, like Muggy and the Toaster and the Big Sink, all those guys in there.
They'll burn the
It's
world
over-
down eventually.
it's-
Don't you know that?
Is Old World Blues the one where you have so much tech in you, you're basically a robot?
Your brain is
Yeah.
your brain has a character. You have to talk to your brain.
It's basic. Old World Blues is basically parodying those old sci-fi black and white B movies.
Oh, it's brilliant.
That's all it is. It's a giant parody of that. And I love it.
It's a pulpy,
I remember
funny.
that. I remember that. I remember all that. It's just I when I first played New Vegas, I didn't play any of the DLCs. I just played the main story.
That's fine.
On my next playthrough,
Well,
I will
fair.
definitely play the DLCs.
That's fair, but I mean that you should play the main story first, then go back and do the DLCs. That's
Yeah, but I'm saying that I didn't bother with the DLCs when I was done with the main story. Maybe eventually.
Yeah,
do Honest
they're all
Hearts,
worth playing.
then Old World Blues, then what's the third one called?
Oh, there's
What was the
many.
other one called?
Old World Blues was the third one.
Was it
Or
Dead,
sorry,
Dead Money? What is it
Dead
called?
Money.
There was
Dead
Dead
Money,
Money,
is
and then there's Lonesome Road.
yeah, and then Lonesome
Lonesome-
Road. Yeah,
Lonesome Road is the one with the old courier that's supposed to bring the whole story full circle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not my favorite because
they kind of tried to make a Joshua Graham 2.0, and it didn't work because
Well, Joshua Graham.
I have kind of a trying to find the word here. I have a persistent issue with Chris Aballone's style of writing, where he always has a character who's basically him, and that character tends to preach a lot, and that character is Ulysses in New
Yeah,
Vegas.
yeah,
he
Ulysses
has a blabbermouth.
Ulysses is he's. Have you ever seen that meme where it's like a massive book?
Bear bull, or something.
Yeah, it's like a
else.
massive book of the story, a tiny book. If X character didn't do something, it's that with Ulysses. If you just would shut up for 5 seconds.
There was a story in Honest Hearts where, not a story, but a comment that he says there was a courier hired by the Legion to hunt him down. And I thought that was Ulysses. I could be wrong. But Ulysses was looking for you the entire time. And
Yeah, because you destroyed the town that he lived in or whatever.
Right. It was something like that.
Ulysses is Lonesome Road, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but the thing with Lonesome Road is
Okay.
because Ulysses is constantly trying to undermine you and get to know you along the way. It's this and he's very monotone. He's very like, and this is the way it was.
It's this very gravelly, monotone, there's no
Weirdly-
change.
He's trying to
Yeah,
get
weirdly,
spiritual. He's trying to be very
weirdly
spiritual,
emotionless.
whereas Joshua Graham is like he is this crazy, unstoppable force, and he's in constant pain. But when you meet him, he's just so serene, and he knows exactly what he has to do. He has this religious outlook, and when he joins you, like you can't change his inventory. He doesn't follow any orders. You know, it's like, why are you with me? You see him fight. It's like, oh, that's why you're with me.
Because Joshua Graham is not your companion. You are Joshua Graham's companion.
That's the big twist of that story.
You do whatever Joshua Graham says, and you will like it. You will follow him through hell if need be.
Yeah, it's like that. Was that something meant to be like the big twist of Joshua Graham's story, that you're not he's not your companion, you're his?
No, it's just
It's just a joke with the player base because of the way he.
Okay.
because Joshua Graham is amazing.
Once you learn about what happened at Hoover Dam, and then you learn about the Burned Man, you go, oh.
Joshua Graham was Caesar's right-hand man. They do mention him in the main story. He was the one they threw down the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, what's his name?
pitch.
Hanlon.
He's in a lot of like the loading screens, and he gets brought up every so often.
Yeah, Hanlon.
I mean-
when you talk to Hanlon about that fight, he said that, we had 5 Rangers give 5 confirmed kills on Joshua Graham. He's still alive. It's this.
I mean, do 3 in New Vegas happen chronologically in the same order as release date? Or are they reversed?
New Vegas takes place the latest in the storyline of Fallout itself, like in the timeline.
So after 3, after 4, after almost everything?
I think so. Let me double check that. Hang on.
Well, the question was at least after 3, and now I know it is.
Yes, it is after 3.
After 3.
Okay, yeah, because you do kill Caesar in New Vegas if you want. And that's the definitive end of his character.
Yeah, New Vegas takes place in 2281.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Joshua Graham
Oh, no,
says...
it's 60, okay, no, my bad. It's 6 years before Fallout 4, so Fallout 4 is the farthest in the timeline.
Because he says 400 years ago, his ancestor invented the 1911, and he's constantly cleaning and looking at the 45 automatic pistol, and he has like a mountain of them, and he's just constantly, with like clockwork, just cleaning them and loading them.
He will sit there infinitely cleaning and picking up a new gun.
Okay, so Fallout's release order and chronological order up to 4 are one and the same?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
It's only 76 that goes backwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's because the fans have been asking for a decade to see what it was like before just as the bombs fell, and they kind of teased it with 4.
So 76 is the series prequel.
Right. So the characterization, even in Fallout 4, I'd say the characterization is a little heavier, a little thicker. There's more to it. There's more to the characters than Skyrim or actually any of the Elder Scrolls games. They're not very memorable in terms of the people in it.
Do the
because
Elder
weirdly,
Scrolls,
weirdly, Elder Scrolls is far more
characters?
about Alduin technically.
There's Alduin. There's maybe Paarthurnax. There's.
No one remembers Paarthurnax. Everyone just knows the fact that he's voiced by the same actor as Mario, and that's it.
There's Serana from the Dawn Guard DLC.
All right.
My favorite DLC of Skyrim, for the record.
What's his name? From 4, the Chaos Cheese.
Oh, Sheogorath.
Sheogorath, yeah, everyone remembers
people
him.
remember Sheogorath because
of Shivering Isles.
Joke.
From what I've heard, yes.
He's a joke. And people remember the Imperials from Fallout 4 because of an iconic performance of all the Imperial males from Wes Johnson.
You know what? From my experience in Skyrim's Dragonborn DLC, the first Dragonborn, for me he was a joke because the thing with him was just, I came first, kneel before me, and that's it. That was my experience with the fucker.
It really honestly seemed like they were trying to do kind of a Ulysses dynamic between you and him. These like the
You know what? You can get that idea from the cut ending where you could redeem him. And he fights alongside you against the blob of evil. But you could say the intention with the first Dragon War was maybe Ulysses, but better. Maybe. Or it's just
that's Joshua Graham.
Or Joshua Graham, but better. That's what I meant.
You can't get better than Joshua Graham.
See, there is no Joshua Graham ending, but there obviously should be.
I mean, they cut it. Well, I think the first Dragonborn had a redeemed ending, but they cut it. You can mod it back in, but doesn't mean shit.
It's weird because Fallout's world is as a character of its own, and like Fallout they focus more on characters themselves, whereas Elder Scrolls they try to focus more on the world itself because it's always world-ending events that you're dealing with.
Yeah,
but the world itself doesn't have a character.
Yeah, and there aren't enough, like, you can talk to plenty of people in those games, but nobody is, like, if you want it to be about broad world-spanning events, you still need individuals to relate to. You need a reason, and it can't just be generic NPCs who recite the same 5 lines every time you talk to them.
Indeed.
Like it reminds me of in Mass Effect 2, right before you go attack the collector base, and you're talking to everybody finding out how they're feeling about this potential
talking to
suicide
everybody,
mission.
talking to everybody for the billionth time.
Yeah, when you're finding out their feelings about this suicide mission you're about to go on, and you talk to Morden, and he says he was talking to his favorite nephew because it helps remind him what exactly it is he's fighting for, because the galaxy is big and abstract, but his favorite nephew is not. And it kind of reminds me of that, where
for a lot of people, sorry.
Yeah, there just aren't enough people to connect to in the Elder Scrolls world to make the world-ending events seem like they mean anything, especially, like I said, when there's no urgency to them, even though the game tries to make you think there's urgency.
Yeah.
I mean, for the in Mass Effect 2, right before the collector base attack, despite the lack of urgency for me and a lot of other people, that is one of the highlights of the game.
Yeah, it's just a shame when you actually stop and think about the narrative and how broken Fallout or Mass Effect 2's narrative is, and how it completely torpedoes the series and is basically the reason that Mass Effect 3 was a wet fart.
Especially since Arrival is technically Mass Effect 2's real ending.
And it doesn't mean anything because you're like...
Yeah, it doesn't mean dick, aside from optional conversations.
I guess they're not actually trapped in dark space anymore.
Arrival invalidates 2 as well as the first game, so...
I guess the Reapers aren't trapped in dark space anymore. They can just fly in from outside now.
Yeah, a real place for Mass Effect 2 with all the DLC is just everything but Arrival.
The problem is a lot more fundamental than that, because Mass Effect 2 being about anything other than preparing to fight the Reapers destroys the trilogy.
Yep.
Anyway, this video is not about Mass Effect.
Right.
I mean, I know we're kind of using it as a springboard to talk about video game settings and storytelling because it's an 8-minute video.
It's also an 8-minute video, so we got to pad it out a little bit.
It's an 8-minute video that we have to stretch out into a 2.5-hour Smudcast.
At the least.
And it's such an inherently subjective topic that it's more a tool for discussion than it is a real let's inspect this kind of thing.
I mean, we've been keeping it relevant for the most part, at the very least. That's something.
And we only go off into tangents if we need to use it as an example.
Well, let's get back to the video then.
Series range from beautiful snowy mountains to little green dells to horrible shadowy caves full of spiders and every sort of grotty bog and wonderful field and meadow in between. There is so much variety. What I'm trying to say is that the Elder Scrolls is truly beautiful to behold in its range, whereas Fallout really only offers one brand of thing. It's green and brown. 2 brands of thing if you want to get picky.
And you can also have, the beauty of destruction and just wandering through a destroyed world.
White, red, blue, black.
I think she was about to say something. I think she was about to say something about 4.
Yellow.
About how 4 changes it up, probably. Because she was talking about 3. She wasn't even talking about New Vegas, which is a lot.
I hope she brings up 4 as an exception, because that's the only way showing 4 at this point makes sense.
I mean, even New Vegas, to an extent, had some differentiating. Like, there were some green areas.
Yeah.
Like, the green is in, there's plant life, not as a green filter.
Yeah, glowing green.
One could argue there wasn't too much. Yeah, the radioactive waste speaks for itself. But you could say in Fallout in New Vegas, there wasn't too much of it.
Yeah, but they made it make sense, too, so...
No, that's
Honest Hearts really mixes it up, because Honest Hearts is, Zion National Park, I think, is still in the desert.
Yes, it is.
But Zion National Park was not hit by any bombs, so you basically get to see nature in all of its splendor in Honest Hearts. There's mountains and rivers and all this stuff, and it looks really nice. Honest Hearts is a great map, even if it's not my favorite DLC. because I think the
Uh,
plot is a little eh.
On the
But-
other hand, I think so far we can make the assumption that DLCs are not going to be talked about in this video, at least not until much later, if at all.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
currently it's only been like the main games, like the main experience.
Yeah,
Well,
and
let's
I'm
see what
not
she was
really
gonna say
going to
about 4.
contest that the Elder Scrolls has a nicer looking area, because each Elder Scrolls game is set in an entire country and not a bombed out part of the United States.
Yeah, the only one that doesn't apply to is the ESO, because you go all over the world.
You go, yeah. The pretty much is it the. I mean, isn't the entire world like the size of Pangea or something? Or am
Yeah,
I-
you go through all of Cyrodiil.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, let's go.
Like Cyrodiil, the continent, not just the
Yes.
country.
Yeah, you go through. Yeah, you explore the
Tamriel
whole
is the
damn
continent.
place.
Fallout
Tamriel
is
is the world, I
obviously
think.
rooted in fictional
Oh,
history,
yeah.
but it's one that resembles
planet,
our
yes.
own closely enough to make it all that closer to home. As much as you'd think that would make it more accessible and interesting, all it does is alienate an audience who aren't used to all these American landscapes or particularly interested in them.
Okay, so
I.e., she's British, so she can't relate to.
yeah, I'm
The world of
Canadian,
Fallout.
but I had no idea it was Boston until hours into the game. It's like, oh, this is Boston, really? I had no idea. It didn't matter. It doesn't have to matter. There's
Yeah,
nothing-
what's funny is
Yeah.
like there's a lot of things. There's like if you've been to these places, you can recognize city and layouts and key points to the cities, even though they're destroyed. Like they make them recognizable to someone who.
And how is America inherently less relatable to a non-American audience than a completely alien world?
By that logic, this video can go so wrong so quickly.
Well, she's trying to say because it's a wasteland in America, it's unrelatable to people not in America. I'm like, do you think Americans can relate to a wasteland of Boston in a fantastical, radioactive, crazy 40s?
I mean, it's not Detroit, but
I mean, what are they expecting from the average player from America, which I'm assuming most of them are anyway? Like, I can't relate to this
Which is
giant
understandable.
rubble-encrusted city. It's like, no, neither can I guess. I don't run around broken cities scavenging. She likes fantasy magic worlds. Fine. Great. You think of that when you read Tolkien or any other fantasy author. It's totally cool. But to say, well, because I enjoy this more, it's more relatable. It has more colors. You're like, because you're not American? No, that's silly.
Whilst we get of a parallel history, and it is a sight to behold, the separation from everyday life is something that the Elder Scrolls excels in.
Yeah, because you run around with an axe all the time in real life.
I mean, does she think that Fallout is how America is? Like,
It's a Wild West with a Yao guy running around.
I mean, I know Fallout is a massive parody of the United States, exaggerated to the nth degree, but that's also the whole world of Fallout. It's not just the United States. We've just only seen the United States' like settings because it's just what they've chosen to set the world in or the games in.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think it's just safer to do that instead of fleshing out other parts of the world and knowing what happened to Europe or China or whatever. But
Well, and you lose a little bit of the satire of 50s retrofuturism if you don't set it in America, because the 50s was the height of the Cold
McCarthyism,
War and
Americana.
anti-communist sentiment, Americana, all of that, which you lose to some extent if you're outside of the United States. That doesn't mean you can't explore other places, and it means the writers have to maybe get a little bit more creative than making the bad guys ham-handed representations of the George H.W. Bush administration. But
Yeah,
could do
I honestly don't like what Bethesda's doing to the Brotherhood. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. In 4, I hate the Brotherhood. It's not the Brotherhood. I don't know who those people are.
Even in Fallout 1 and even in Fallout 2, the Enclave was essentially Black Isle Studios writing about how much they hated mid-90s neocons.
I mean, I'm fine with that, considering that the Enclave is supposed to be survivors of and descendants of the American government. So I'm fine with the Enclave being like that.
Rest in peace, Brotherhood of Steel, 1994 to 2010.
Yeah, I hate. Well, think in 76 they're not as bad, but I hate the Brotherhood of 4. They're awful. They're not the Brotherhood. I don't know what they are.
I had a pretty decent experience with the Brotherhood in New Vegas. It's like I didn't like them
actually more New Vegas. Those are actually more Brotherhood in line with the ideals of the Brotherhood.
That was a very tragic look at the Brotherhood. I mean, there's the actual Brotherhood game, which is weird, and I don't think that's a very good depiction either. But
what genre was that game again?
The genre?
It was a tactical RPG.
It was a mix of turn-based and real-time combat. It was a weird sort of game.
Okay. Yeah.
But
it's also only semi-canon, I think.
Yeah, was it decanonized? I can't recall. It was a weird one. So
it's not. I don't think it's included in any Fallout compilation game packs.
Oh, really? Huh.
I think it's.
No, I think it's in the classic pack. I think it gets packaged with 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, probably because it's considered classic. But I don't think anyone counts it as like a part of the story of the world of Fallout.
I think it's as canon as the Fallout Bible is.
That's
where
true.
It's like it can be considered canon if you don't get any information to contradict something that's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually my approach with a lot of franchises. If something new is introduced in a spin-off without anything being contradicting it in the main series, you can try to canonize it, but take it with a grain of salt. That's just with anything.
Yeah, like in 76, the Brotherhood that's in that game was founded because they got in contact with what's his name, the founder of the Brotherhood. Blanking on his name, because before communications were cut from everything as the bombs were falling.
I mean, I would say the Brotherhood peaked in New Vegas.
I mean,
like the overall quality of their writing peaked in New Vegas, for my money.
I mean, the Brotherhood in 3 wasn't terrible.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just
but yeah, 4's like where they just turned them into the villains because for some reason Bethesda decided to make them the villain.
Well, that's at least something that was in the game. A lot of people complained that the Enclave was not in New Vegas enough unless you actually were aware of Arcade's story right at the end of the game, and then you could.
I'm fine with the Enclave not being there the entire time. They don't need to be the big villain.
Exactly. It's like for what New Vegas was trying to do, they weren't as necessary as the main factions they were pushing.
Yeah, like the Enclave is in 76 as well, and most people have missed it unless they were told specifically, "Hey, go do this very specific thing so you can get access to them."
Right.
Like they're not a main villain. They're just there because this is before the Fallout 1 Enclave would show up and be the actual villains.
Okay, here is Great Scott. Thank you for the donation. I'm betting all Bethesda actually did was look at the Fallout 1 intro with the U.S. soldier in T-51 armor and said, "Oh, the Brotherhood are the series mascot, hot dog. Let's circle jerk them in every single one of our games."
I mean, they kind of are, but they weren't circle jerked in 4. They were made the outright villains.
I think they're
far more villainous than the Institute.
I think the helmet is pretty iconic, but so are many other things in Fallout as well. The Vault Boy is the obvious mascot for Fallout.
Vault Boy definitely.
We're talking about the experience.
The T-52 power armor helmet, the Pit Boy, and the Vault Boy. Those are the 3 most iconic items.
Remind me Remind me, what was it that got the meat costume in Smash? Not the Brotherhood, the ball boy.
Well, I was referring to the experience of a man and a dog traveling the waste, like dog meat or whatever you want to call a dog.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yes, agreed.
It's a classic
it's
icon
iconic.
of the system or the game
Yeah.
experience. The other, I guess, you want visual icons. I think the logo for what's the drink called again?
Nuka-Cola.
Nuka-Cola. Yeah, like it's sort of like, okay, I know where I am, wherever.
I'd also say the NCR Elite Soldier armor from the cover of New Vegas to an extent.
Yeah, that's become an icon over the last few years.
Yeah, New Vegas made that an icon from how good the game was, and also was a damn good armor to wear.
Yeah.
It has a really good design to this day.
I guess the NCR flag is a pretty decent
Oh yeah, but that's dependent on the game you're
too-
playing. May or may not have the NCR. But if we're talking about the original games, that was
Exactly.
definitely present. And one of those visuals was Frank Harrigan, I think was his name. The end, one of the end bosses of Fallout 2. He had this giant hulking power armor suit.
Yeah.
And that
the Enclave power armor.
Yeah, that sort of went away.
Oh, the final boss in New Vegas or something else.
No, in 2.
Oh,
I think that's when I think that's when they first showed off. It's either I think it's supposed to be the Tesla armor or the XO1 in 2. Because that was Enclave armor before it became.
Isn't the
usable in
XO1
other games?
Isn't the XO1 the one that became the default Brotherhood armor? Or am I just
No,
losing my
that's
shit?
that's the T50.
T50? Okay, my bad. I got the numbers mixed up. My bad.
XO1 was made specifically for members of the United States government before the bombs fell.
Exactly.
And then the Enclave built upon that to make their armor.
Yeah, T50 became an icon of the series primarily because it was on the cover of Fallout 1.
Yeah.
Albeit just the helmet, but...
All right, let's get back.
It really is an escape into an entirely new world. This works better for some than it does for others, but for the sake of truly immersive gameplay, a whole new world and things that are unknown to be able to explore seems far more appealing, well, at least to me. Why is any of this important? Well, by looking at the offerings of the Elder Scrolls so far, and the enormity of Tamriel, not to mention the entirety of Nirn, it seems that Fallout has put itself into a little bit of a box. We already know what we're getting when it comes to new releases, which is irradiated wastelands of America. And even if they move to the rest of the world and have a look at all the exciting prospects that hold, which they should definitely do, it's still going to be more of the same. Everywhere's been bombed with a nuclear bomb. It's not going to be that much different. Then we move on to lore. Practically overflowing with this stuff, the Elder Scrolls has books, artifacts, rumours, all sorts of random things cropping up all throughout the game that you can engage with as much or as little as you like. Fallout, of course, provides these things as well, but definitely not to the same intricate degree. And it lets you get involved with the socio-economic politics of the whole place, but literally the Elder Scrolls just absolutely blows it out of the water when it...
Okay, wait a second. We're talking about the content of the written stuff? Or audio
some of the
logs?
stuff in Fallout is really, it's stuff that actually happened. It's not a story. Like, a lot of the stuff in a lot of the books that you find in Elder Scrolls are just stories that the people tell in the world. It's not it's not a diary. It's not a company doing something nefarious and then you finding out what they were doing.
We were just arguing about how boring Ulysses was because he never shuts up. It's like, yes, he never shuts up. There's too much Ulysses in that Lonesome Road DLC. And the actual gameplay is really good. It's really challenging, and the environment's really interesting. The world you're in. So, it depends on where you go and what you're playing. There's lots to see and do in Fallout, or at least New Vegas, in comparison to, well, I got honestly very bored with Skyrim. I was like, hey, a magic school. What's that about? Oh, you just end up becoming the headmaster because you can. And you're like, cool, now what? And it's just, you go to another place and there's something else there because there's something else there. It's not because you have to or you need to or there's a plot associated with it. It's just a thing to explore, which is completely devoid of personality. It's devoid of a plot. And what Fallout does is give you reasons to do things. It gives you reasons. I have to go find Cass's father's broken caravan far on the other side of the map. It's like, oh, geez. Then I have to fight some Cazadors. Oh, shit. And then I have to, avoid all these other things. Like that gives me a reason to get to the other side of the map for the sake of it. So it's a lot more focused in the narrative because the map is literally smaller.
If you dig around in in the computer systems and find journal entries, if you dig around, it'll lead you directly to stuff.
Yeah, you can read those boring emails. I remember trying to read them. I don't care. This is boring. There's drama between
or like
coworkers.
listening to holotapes.
Holotape. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in there.
And with Elder Scrolls, just in general, it's very much a NPC has to tell you, hey, go here for me and get this thing. It's not like you can happen across it, but most of the stuff you happen across is a small cave or a small simple dungeon. It's not there because it's just there it is. It's there because it's generally would be a part of something else.
Here's Skullgar Thane. This is great. I love this. Dogmeat was probably a nod to the 70s, 80s movie A Boy and His Dog.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Which is based off the book by the same name by Harlan Ellison. In case you haven't read that, it's a little different than the actual movie. Actually, it's a lot different, but it's still interesting enough. A similar themed post-apocalyptic flick that was interesting from what little I remember. Yeah, the dog I think was talking to him.
Yeah, it was a psychic dog.
Yeah, it was an interesting movie for its time.
But yeah, the Black Isle Studios directly said that Dogmeat was inspired. Oh, yeah. Their first Dogmeat was same with in Fallout 3 because Fallout 3's Dogmeat is a direct descendant of the original Dogmeat.
Yeah, all of these guys.
It's the blue Australian blue herder or whatever that breed of dog is. It's an actual
German
breed.
Shepherd?
Yeah, isn't it the breed? Isn't it the breed from Mad Max?
Yes, it's the same breed because that was Mad Max used that dog as the inspiration from a boy and his dog as well.
I think all of the interplay.
In Force, when they used the German Shepherd,
the interplay guys were rather well read in what they wanted to do. They made an adult story.
Yeah, they reference a lot of stuff.
They have all kinds of sex and violence, whether it's visualized or not. And then it was toned down as soon as it became popular with Fallout 3. And that was what a lot of people like me who remember the first two games go, oh yeah, this is Fallout, but now 3D, awesome. And you go, wait a second.
What's funny is now that they've kind of turned up the political intrigue and the world itself being more of a exaggerated parody to American sensibilities, I guess.
Well,
which is fine. I don't mind the shift to that. It's enjoyable, and it's still you
could exhaust everything in a town and then just murder the town. Kids, children, just murder everyone. You could do that, and this was the completionist way of playing the game because you could first be the good guy, get the most experience points you could, get all the best items, get all the plot points and all the missions that lead to other missions. And once you've exhausted that, it's I'm now going to kill everyone because I want the maximum amount of experience I can get. So
yeah, and that's a thing with Bethesda. They're too afraid to let the player make a mistake.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Be it on purpose or be on accident.
Yeah, because
they don't want to
kill anyone in this game.
Yeah.
You just murder everyone, and the game keeps going, and the plot keeps going. And that's what's beautiful about that. You can screw up and just to hell with it. Here's some C4. Get me the hell out of here. Kaboom. And there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a issue with modern game design in the first place, where devs are afraid to let people lock themselves out or fail a quest.
All right.
So it's a critique of the game industry as a whole right now, where they're just afraid to let players fail, basically.
Here is Ultimate Fatty. Thank you. Just the backstory for characters like Raoul or Boone are way more interesting than any character I remember from the whole Elder Scrolls series. Oh yeah, I could list, I don't know, maybe half a dozen, just off the top of my head, from Fallout. And of course, I already mentioned Joshua Graham. He's the most memorable, but I said Arcade Gannon before. I said Boone. There's Cass. Raul.
I mean, even Edie, just Edie.
Edie was, yeah, he's basically R2D2 with a laser, a flying R2D2.
Yeah, he doesn't speak at all.
Yeah, he's great.
Well, he doesn't have any, he doesn't speak like we do, but he has a personality. He has a whole backstory to him.
Lonesome Road pretty much gives him another character. When you explore stuff with him, he unlocks secrets from the Enclave. Yeah. I mean, it's just this wonderful setting that you take, like, to me, that's R2D2. It's like, this is what you want in a cool futuristic world. Although it's not that futuristic. Veronica, she was memorable.
It's futuristic in a certain sense, but yeah.
There's all these memorable characters in these games because they make you care about them. You want to learn about the Brotherhood? Boom. Let's personify the Brotherhood in this reclusive, sort of rebellious Brotherhood person whose job is to get groceries, but she has a bigger heart than that. And you try to help her out. And every time you try to help her out, something goes wrong. And then you just keep trying and trying to the point where she has to give up on them, or you could tell her that, hey, that's your family. You got to stay with them. And that's her fate. So there's all this customization. There's all these opportunities for role-playing. And you have that freedom. You have that control. You are the actor in all of these events. You are such an influence on the world of Fallout as opposed to whatever the hell happens in Skyrim. I can't even remember because dragons are a random event and it's just like, they're dead now. Yeah, another dragon. So anyway, there's other characters out there. I haven't even mentioned Dr. House or all the boss crime lords in the strip.
Still, the best line from House is when he asks, "Why did you destroy the NCR?" And you can respond, "They wanted to make me pay taxes." And he goes, "Understandable." One of the best responses in any Fallout game. It's amazing.
I still think House is probably the greatest character in the whole story. They're just there's fantastic, memorable characters in every place you go. And they pull you in with their desires and their weird personalities and all their strange plots. And it just starts that way. He goes, oh, revenge. Oh, it's bigger than I thought it was. And all these things happen around that just to get to inside the strip, which is fun enough. And
Fallout New Vegas, the game where you go and kill Chandler.
Yeah, the way that what's his name phoned in all his lines. He couldn't be more enthusiastic about playing that.
Oh game. It was so funny how he was so like, I guess because he played 3, so he was obsessed with Fallout.
He was, but his delivery was just so lame. I'm like, do you really want to?
Yeah, no, it's weird because there's on record of him being like very excited to be a part of it, and I guess I don't know, maybe he just didn't have a good director.
Yeah, it felt like something was missing with him. Either way, all kinds of memorable factions, stories, and characters in Fallout New Vegas.
Indeed. Let me just say real quick, it kind of did hurt me to kill Mr. House in New Vegas on my first playthrough because his actor had already died at that point.
Oh.
Rest in peace, Rene Auberjonois.
Yeah, what's funny is, I had started learning more about Walt Disney as a person, and like, oh well, they pulled a lot of House from Disney, just his personality and his like controlling nature. Same with Andrew Ryan in BioShock. It's that same like.
I would put House above Andrew. Andrew Ryan's more of a caricature of what it means to be a conglomerate of this libertarian.
Just like that, very controlling, very like wanting to be in charge of everything.
Right. Yeah.
Like what he makes is his. It's like learning. It's that 1950s 40s businessman.
Oh yeah. He's amazing.
Personality to them.
Every time I play the game, I always keep him alive. He's the best choice. I've said this before on other streams because he's the smartest guy. He has all the technology. He has all the ambition, and he has none of the greed. He has none of the problems of acquiring wealth. Wealth is just a tool to him. He is a man in a coffin, and he's going to remain that way till he dies, however long that will take. So he is the best choice for New Vegas. Anyway, we're off topic. Let's keep going.
Books and books and books on the whole history of the
that's
place.
great.
Importantly, I'd argue that the newness of Fallout and its relevance to our own timeline kind of serves to its detriment. Unlike the Elder Scrolls, the world in Fallout has been around for only a fraction of the time in the grand scheme of things,
Really?
in which new ways of life have had to be established fairly quickly. The Elder Scrolls already has thousands of years of lore under its belt from an entirely fictional world built from the ground up. That's totally accessible and ready to be expanded.
I mean, technically, the Fallout games do as well. They have the entirety history of the world up until a point, and then it becomes Fallout.
Yeah, even if there were more games of not necessarily Skyrim, but just the Elder Scrolls in general, it depends on how well fleshed out the world is and how interactive. Like, you can write books and movies that have a great time, but if it's not interactive in the gaming sense, meaning you can't do all the things you want to do or have the role-playing experience that you're supposed to have, who cares how many books there are? What's the difference? If it's not a fun game that's engaging, like I play Fallout New Vegas every year because I love it. I come back to it all the time. Skyrim, don't give a shit. Played it once. Like this is a slog. I beefed up my character to max out my 100 stats and everything. Didn't care. Didn't mean anything to me. So you could have the most fleshed out world, and maybe Skyrim does have a lot of books where they explain the backstory of this or that glen or this town or whatever. It's like, that's fine. But unless I'm actually interacting with that place and doing something worthwhile that pulls me into the story and the characters, doesn't really do anything for me. So now the other argument is people like Fallout more because it has guns and they're used to first-person shooters more often, so it appeals to a broader base, and that's just more easy to jump into if you're always playing first-person or third-person shooters on your PC or your console, and you load up an old game of New Vegas. It's like, yeah, I can still get into it. Maybe that's definitely an argument, but I wouldn't care if Fallout didn't have guns and they had makeshift bows and arrows or whatever. I'd still want to be there.
It's the world that makes Fallout.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's the setting.
Unfortunately, Elder Scrolls is kind of generic.
Yes.
Fantasy world, which it's not a bad thing, mind you. But it doesn't have a personality to it. The closest you get is the Daedric Lords. And the only two we've seen have both been the same, basically the same, conquering what to take over the both realms. Like, that's literally, they have the exact same. You see one in Oblivion, and you see one in the base game of Elder Scrolls Online, like the initial launch storyline, and it's the exact same idea, just with a different flavor of, I'm going to merge the worlds and take over.
Yeah. Wonderful plot.
So
anyway.
it's like some of the most memorable characters in the Elder Scrolls are the Daedric Lords, which you don't ever see them. You just hear them speak to you randomly at times if you get too close to their statues.
I think you fight their champion or there's corpses or something sometimes.
For one of them you do, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, here's Alex Halo. Hey, Alex, these games have story. I just kill stuff. Okay. That's true. You can do that.
Whatever. Yeah, that's
run around.
It allows you to do it.
And
nothing wrong with that.
Everything. You can do that.
You want to be a murder hobo? You be the best murder hobo you can possibly be.
Yeah. Anyway.
Handed upon. Even places like Sovngarde and the Daedric realm should the mortal planes prove too boring to mess around in. There's less establishing time for fans of the Elder Scrolls, as those who know everything will very easily be able to get into it, and those who aren't bothered can just literally slip into the easy fantasy of the whole place. There's not really much explaining to go on, and you can have it as casual or as intense as you like.
Yeah, but that's any game. Any game with any RPG with the opportunity to go through a codex or talk to someone. It's like, you don't have to talk to everyone. It's like, yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah, like my brother, he played through Cyberpunk 2077, as did I. And he just completely ignored the story the entire time. He just would run around the world and shoot things. Look, I tried, like, him and I don't get along super well. I was trying to be, we were both playing the same game. I was trying to be polite and, like, let him know, like, hey, just a forewarning, because I finished the game before he did. And he just completely ignored he didn't care about anyone's character. He didn't care about anyone's name. He didn't remember any of that. He just would run around and shoot things. On PS4 too, mind you. I'm at least on PC. I didn't deal with the crap show that was the launch for that.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the price to come down and maybe play it next year or so, because I'm still not convinced it's fixed yet. So.
I mean, on PC, it's really not. It didn't have as many issues as people make it out. Like, I ran into 2 issues where something didn't load quite right, and I just quick loaded the game and it was fine. But I never had any massive issues with the game playing through, and that was within the first 2 weeks of the game launching.
Oh, that's great. That's a lot better than what I've heard. So good.
Oh yeah, no, I got lucky. I well aware I got lucky with that, but still, it's just a case of you can, even a story heavy game like Cyberpunk 2077. You can have people just completely ignore the story.
All right.
And just run around and shoot things.
Here is the Spawn Camp. Thank you for the 10. While I'm sure there is an argument for the Elder Scrolls being better, all the games I played from watched, they all feel like different worlds. Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind feel very different. I would argue, every time they make a new game, it's an entirely different experience. I mean,
that's not a bad thing, though, because they're all supposed to be, they're all in different countries within Tamriel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember in Arena, the first game, you build your party, and you make all these guys, and you customize them, and you try to, it's hard. It's a hard game. You have to survive. And you don't know how things work. You don't know where to buy weapons or how to get to the town or where you are. Like, it's difficult.
It's very much a early 90s game where it's like, here you go. Well, what do I do? Figure it out.
Yeah. Was it turn-based?
What if I can't? Figure it out.
Yeah. Is it like a turn-based real-time thing where you have the 6 status icons on your left and right-hand side of your screen, and you're just hoping something works? I don't know. Is this hitting? Is it missing? I don't know. So
figure it out.
Yeah.
Old Morrowind when you didn't have a map, but how do I know where to go?
Figure it out.
Signs.
Yeah.
It's like DayZ. How do I figure out where I'm going? Learn Russian. But I can't. Learn Russian.
And needs contextualizing a lot. Obviously, Fallout's world is interesting. I am not denying that at all. It's a really cool idea and it's one that's fun to explore, but the longevity of the series isn't the same as the Elder Scrolls.
Why not? It's been going. It's super popular. What are you talking about?
How does it need context as well?
There's only a 3-year difference. We said that earlier. It's not much.
I think she's talking about like in-game time span.
Or
like
universe
longevity of the setting.
Yeah, like technically all the games that we've seen within the Elder Scrolls series have taken place within like a millennia.
Yeah, but that's not here nor there. It's just whatever they want to do.
And to be fair, Fallout is catching up to that fairly quickly. Like the next game is probably going to end up being.
But as it stands, like in universe longevity, there's still no contest until then.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of more games to come out for both series, so I don't see how this is. I can't see them not making these games anymore. They're very successful. They're played, and the older games are still sleeper hits. They're still things that people want to visit again. And
I mean, like with
and as long as there's still people that are creative enough to keep it going and may have it make sense, there's still potential.
The mod,
like with Fallout, there's 50 different states. Well, 47 now that they can set a game in.
Well, yeah, but you look at the actual community of these people. The mod community is part of it, and they just keep pumping stuff out. Even the bad mods, which are big, like I can't remember the latest one that was called
the Frontier.
Frontier.
Oh God.
And the thing is though, like, even if let's just say that she's right, and like there's more longevity to be found in telling stories in Nern instead of telling stories in Fallout Earth, series can end. There's no longevity does not make something better, just like it doesn't make something worse. A series can be short and better than something that was long. That's not like it doesn't inherently matter whether there's a longer series to be found in Fallout or in.
It depends on if the story is told correctly to fit.
Yeah, it's like Jak and Daxter is still a pretty good series, even though it's like a small handful of games. Whereas Assassin's Creed is like almost 20 games and it's gone to shit real fast.
That's because Ubisoft got bored with what they were doing before and decided to remake the entire series into a whole different game.
I dread how what was it, Assassin's Creed Infinity? I dread how that's going to turn out. Basically, Assassin's Creed MMO. We shall see.
I mean, granted, within the world of the game, it makes sense.
I mean, it can work. Just like multiple assassins coming together. It's like that's kind of the whole point of the series, where it's a group of people coming together and make sure the Templars don't fuck everything up. But they gotta make it work.
Yeah, but it's also Ubisoft that's doing it, so.
And modern Ubisoft post Odyssey and Valhalla.
I haven't played either of those. I have not played an newer Assassin's Creed.
Odyssey and Valhalla summed up in 2 words. They're woke.
Oh, I'm well aware that's the fact.
It's not even just the issue with Odyssey and Valhalla. It's not just a storytelling perspective. I mean, that's part of it. But like from a gameplay perspective, here's what you need to know about the gameplay of Odyssey and Valhalla. Assassinations are not guaranteed kills on high-level enemies.
Yes.
You can sneak up on and assassinate someone, and they will not one-hit die if they're a higher level, enough of a higher level than you.
Also, in terms of lore,
called Assassin's Creed.
Also, it says something where they stopped putting the hidden blade under the forearm. That says something about how much worse things are getting.
Yeah, I mean,
especially right after the game that gives the official lore explanation for the blade being under the forearm.
I thought all Origins did was like, here's a hidden blade, put it on now.
Well, Origins is literally the origin of the Brotherhood. They retcon the Assassin Brotherhood. Yes, they retcon. They retcon Cain being the Templar founder and Abel being the Assassin founder. That was originally what it was. Cain and Abel founded the 2 organizations.
All right.
It sounds stupid, I know.
5 minutes.
Considering this is the same series where it's the, the secret civilization that came before that suddenly disappeared. So.
Which is a cliche in and of itself.
We are 5 minutes in. We have 3 minutes left. Won't take too long. But she is obviously biased in her opinion, and I don't like any of her arguments aside from the color palette, which is fine, but,
Yeah, they're very subjective. There's no...
And the unpredictability of Smudcast in general goes without saying.
All right.
And the build on it just doesn't stand up to the same sort of standard that the Elder Scrolls has. Part of this might be Bethesda's coming into it quite late, but still, arguably the most important difference in these 2 franchises is their personality and your ability to be able to impose your own...
Yes, Fallout has a personality.
Yeah, and the Elder Scrolls is
as much as I like the Elder Scrolls, what personality?
Yeah.
Other than Sheogorath?
The Elder Scrolls is fantasy setting.
Traditional fantasy setting at that.
Yes, which is not a bad thing. It's just very basic.
Yeah, there's nothing that really makes it stand out in a unique way compared
there are a few things, but they're just way too few and far between to put that up as an argument.
Yeah, like even like the Daedric princes, a lot of them are fairly unique, but at the same time, a pantheon of directly intervening gods and goddesses is not anything new in fantasy.
I mean, honestly, Elder Scrolls as a whole would benefit from the Daedric princes being more involved in the story, other than just them just being the I want to conquer the entire human realm. You know what I mean?
So the first Dragonborn.
I don't remember any of the Skyrim DLC other than the vampire one.
The first Dragonborn is the guy just had a massive superiority complex because he was the first one.
Yeah, it's I played them. Don't remember them. I think it says something
Dawnguard was much better than Dragonborn DLC.
It says something when I have, over 1,000 hours in Elder Scrolls Online, and I remember more of that game than I do Skyrim.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. I don't like.
It was still fun. It was just. It's like you go back to Morrow. I think you go back to Morrowind for that one expansion, and that's it.
It's like I remember Oblivion far more than I remember Skyrim. It's also a thing. Like, just the Brotherhood stuff in Oblivion was far better than Skyrim.
Indeed.
Like, they gave you far more options in Oblivion than in Skyrim, and it was just go kill that person.
Yeah, sorry. And again, like I said earlier, it's just the fact that they imply that the Civil War and the Dragonborn plot are so tied together when you quickly find out that they are not at all.
All right. She hasn't talked about tone. She hasn't talked about what makes the dialogue or the story special. She's just saying these are settings and these are color palettes and these are books. Those are very small elements of all of these games. It's like, why do you play? I don't play the games of, like, I don't play Skyrim for the books or the vistas. You could argue the music is beautiful and the characters are well animated, but that's not why I play them. That's not why I care. So these are all very superficial to me. And I don't see this as a good argument for why the Elder Scrolls are suddenly better. She's not even looking at the other games. She's just looking at Skyrim and Fallout 4. She's not even looking at New Vegas. She's not referencing stuff. It's just...
I mean, it's probably the editor, not her, but they've had shots of 3, New Vegas, Oblivion.
I want specific examples.
Skyrim.
I don't just want cuts and clips.
Well, that kind of goes back to our whole issue from the word go here, which is you're trying to make this argument in an 8-minute video, which is front-ended by 30 seconds of intro and back-ended by probably 30 seconds of ad. Or, don't forget to like and subscribe and support us on Patreon.
Well, that's the point of these videos. They're quick, they're simple.
Thank you to today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah. Anyway, here's Crumb. This is a nice point. Just wanted to say, Elder Scrolls has some of the most complex and esoteric lore in gaming. Stuff like dragon breaks, tonal architecture, and the 36 lessons are almost akin to in real life religions. Oh yeah, there's all kinds of factions. There's all kinds of groups and story with those groups. The problem is they're not engaging. They don't.
They're not made this focus.
How does that end up on the ground?
Yeah, it doesn't the game doesn't encourage you to go and look into that stuff. Like, at least in Fallout, it's like if you delve into a computer, you're gonna find story about the area that you're in, about some shady thing that was going on, and then generally lead you into finding loot or finding the conclusion of that story in some spot within that zone. So it's like the closest I can think of in Elder Scrolls is, I mean, it would have to be the Daedric Princes and their stuff, like their what are their weapons called?
Artifacts.
Yeah, like their artifacts, like those have quests linked to them that encourage you to go and do stuff,
Right.
but they're never a part of the main story. They're always just, or they're never not a part of the main story. They're never given. You're never given an incentive to go and find the stuff.
Well, it's the same formula with Fallout. You can kill, let's say, the companions after you. Actually, you don't even have to do their quests. You can just kill them. So it allows you to do that the same way in Fallout. The problem is, once you do the companion quest, there's really nothing that it didn't lead to anything. It's just an independent group, and boom, you're done. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't like with Cass. You find her in the bottom of the map. She drags you, if you want, all the way at the top of the map, just for her quest line, as well as the the Vandegraff's store in New Vegas. So that she just having her as a companion involves her backstory, which is connected to all these things, which is then connected to another group, the Miss McCarthy or whatever her name is, the group she used to be part of, so she could get
The trading company.
the trade. So she's connected to all these little things. She's like your guide. Well, not really, but she's like a traveling companion who wants to get out of the business, and it's all interconnected. And I like that element of she's not just a random person that comes with you just to carry your burdens or whatever these companions in Skyrim are.
Yeah, it's like I can't think of any. I can never remember any of the companions in Skyrim.
Yeah, sadly.
Serena's the only one, but she's DLC.
Yeah, DLC.
Yeah, which is
exactly.
unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Like I wish I could remember them. I just don't.
For my money, Serena is still better than most of them.
I mean, depending on how you started the game, there's generic Nord. That's the Stormcloak soldier, or generic Imperial soldier, right?
I mean, aren't they both Nord?
Probably knowing Skyrim Bethesda, yeah, probably.
I mean, they look the same.
Yeah, it's probably just the same character, just a palette swap. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it would make. I mean, well, story wise, it does make sense from my experience.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just I can see through it, which is it's just not a good thing.
Bethesda, where our games just work.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm never letting that go. I'm never letting that go.
Oh, no one ever will.
Yes. What we got?
Impose your own idealized gameplay onto the established universes. At the heart of it, the key choice between the Elder Scrolls and Fallout is whether you like manipulating worlds or manipulating individual experience. And
What is that? What are we talking about?
That is a nice sentence that means exactly nothing.
there's a wealth of difference to be able to be gleaned from both of those options. Fallout is a game of taking what you can from the world around you. It's about exploring, establishing settlements, wading through irradiated lands, taking on radiation.
She says all this while showing the game that does none of that. She's talking about 4, and I don't know what their editor was thinking, but they're showing 3 in New Vegas, and you can't build settlements in either of those.
I mean, either the editor going full retard or legitimate misinformation.
Yeah, probably.
Fixing yourself from it, going back out there and getting some more. It's about what the world inflicts upon you and how you deal with it and how you can make your own path within that world as well. You're a survivor amongst other survivors where everyone is fending for themselves. So it's not really a case of being the chosen one or a special little guy. It's a case of you surviving. That's the heart of it. It's survive. Survive in a horrible, nasty, post-apocalyptic wasteland. The Elder...
Yeah, that's interesting. That's compelling. That makes you want to keep going and discover. It doesn't matter what the conflict or initial reason to go about your day is. Is going about your day fun and interesting and mysterious and compelling and quirky and has personality and motive. Ah!
Oh, sorry, that was my bad. I bumped the thing. I think we're a little bit farther back than that. Yeah, there we are. Sorry, that was my bad. Did not mean to do that.
Like, it doesn't really matter what this... Like, I will play and read any game or book or watch a movie, if the first 10 minutes has me hooked in. I'm like, okay, there's something to pay attention to. So, like, look at John Wick.
I will grant you, Skyrim has that within the first 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, no, it's good.
And then it doesn't.
Yeah, there's a
That's
execution
the
scene.
problem.
Yeah.
And then do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, and then you just go everywhere. With John Wick, you watch that the first 10 minutes. Oh, that's why he's angry. I got it. And then everything makes sense after that fact. It doesn't matter if he just keeps killing and killing and killing. It's like, yep, makes sense. That's all you needed. Just set me up, give me a reason, and have fun with it. Okay, and that's what they did. If they didn't have those first 10 minutes, it would be a very dumb, forgettable movie. Who cares if Keanu trained to be a martial artist with guns in his body? Like, I don't care. They killed his dog. That is all I need to know. And I know why the dog was important, because it's based off his wife. Perfect. Perfect setup. Go with the focus, action, killing, revenge. Perfect.
The hand is about individual experience. There's already an established civilization and all these things where there's hierarchies and monarchies and various different things that make it quite easy to slip into as an individual character. And in this case, you are the chosen one after all. Combat is deeply personal.
That's neither good nor bad.
I'd say the chosen one thing is handled pretty badly in Skyrim.
It's irrelevant.
Oh, it's handled terribly.
It's not good.
Next to nothing.
Again, the Dragonborn, the actual Dragonborn plot, I think, is one of the shortest quest lines in the whole game.
I think you're only special with the Greybeards and what else? The DLC? Is that it? I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
It's like
The chosen one. Well, no, actually, in Oblivion, you're not even the chosen one. It's what's his name? It's the chosen one that you go and find and be like, okay, chosen one, go do your thing.
Yeah, there's not much to it. It takes every 100 years or 1,000 years this Dragonborn comes about and he can stop the evil dragon on some mountain. You're like, okay, sure, great.
Well, no, it's weird because the only reason in Skyrim, Alduin shows up is because they punted him 500 years into the future because they're like, we don't want to deal with this. Let's make it a future problem, literally. And so there were Dragonborn up until that point, but what were they doing? Like, what did the Dragonborn do when Alduin was not the big bad?
Well, I kind of saw the Greybeards as this sort of this Jedi order of just monks who are just waiting for something to happen, but it never does. Whereas you come by and it's like, yeah, I can do what you can do instantly. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess you got to go fight some dragons now. Like, because
hi, Ray.
Yeah, it's kind of this walk-in Mary Sue trope. You're like,
Dragonborn, the original Ray.
There's some backstory of how he gets abilities, but it's still kind of funny that all you got to do is do a few trials and, oh, you're the chosen one. It's like, okay, thanks. Wonderful. Like I can jump really far now. It's like, okay.
Rather than through the VAT system, you customize from.
There's something she brought up. The VAT system. That's so much fun. Such a great idea. Fantastic in the 3D versions.
She thinks it makes the combat less personal.
Really?
That's what she just said. That the combat in Skyrim is more personal.
Because you don't use VATS? Or you don't have VATS?
Yeah, I guess so.
VATS is a cinematic show-off of how awesome your stats are in combat.
I don't understand why. What does personal mean in this context?
Because you're up in someone's face, but I mean, you could say the same thing about using a gun to a sword.
If anything,
a sword fight is more personal than a gunfight, technically, just in the distance.
If anything, I would say the VAT system makes things more personal because, like Smud said, it's a show off of how you've grown up to that point.
Yeah.
And you could use
even in
melee
76
weapons as well. So,
considering how they've changed it to basically you hit VATS and then it auto targets for as long as you've got AP.
Right.
It doesn't slow down time because you can't do that you can't freeze time or slow down time on an online game. You just can't do that.
I think it has more to do with the entertainment value, not because once you pause the action and you're programming your machine avatar to target this or that body part, and they enact the animation, it sort of sends a message to the audience saying, hey, you know what? We're not taking this too seriously. We're trying to have fun here. Obviously, this is impossible. And in Fallout 4, they do the time dilation thing
where it slows down a lot
for whatever reason. That's fine. I don't care. But this is the whole vibe of Fallout.
Honestly, I'd say that made Vassal worse because you could be perfectly aimed at someone, but they keep moving. So when you fire, they'll get behind cover.
Oh yeah.
And you'll miss your shot.
Well,
because they're still moving that entire time.
The tone and idea I was going for is that the game is entertaining to the point of being farcical and comical, and they run with that. So they know what they're doing. In Skyrim, there's really no tone. It's just sort of, you are a fantasy guy, and here is stuff that happens in Fantasyland. You're like, okay, I can do shouting things because I am dragon. It's like, okay, it's all very generic. And with Fallout, the tone is fun and goofy and tongue-in-cheek with all the McCarthyism and hyper anti-communist eras stuff.
Liberty Prime. Death is a preferable alternative to communism.
Yeah, it just pops up here and there, and you're like, okay, fine, it's Americana crap. All right, yeah. Like it's silly.
It's like, yeah, it's just because, again, one of those weird things. It's like a game that has a personality, it feels far more personable than a game that's just there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think if you're striving for comedic elements, you're already doing an extra effort. So you're not just using dialogue, you're not just using narration, you're not just putting books all over the place like she says. There's something to it. And it's even in those silly little, I hate reading those silly emails or whatever, the consoles that you read about, the people in offices, and they have all these crazy rules and inner office drama. You're like, this is silly. This happened like 200 years ago. Why do I care? This is dumb. But there's personality in that enough that someone feels like, yeah, they would actually write this memo to this woman that they hate, that they broke up with or had an affair with or whatever. So that is a level on top of the narrative that allows for entertainment that is slightly more comical, slightly more...
honestly, it's weird to say, but because it's basically our world and the humans act like humans, Fallout is easier to go, okay, I understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
Whereas in Elder Scrolls, you have to understand more of the world itself.
Right, like who's a Khajiit?
But the game doesn't encourage you.
Yeah, who are the Stormcloaks? What do they really want? What's going on with this power struggle?
It's such a weird thing because Elder Scrolls has a lot of really interesting lore. Like, I'm surprised they have yet to ever do anything with the Khajiit and Argonians because they hate each other.
Yeah,
like the Argonians think the Khajiit created the disease that kills them. It's basically like what's the plague called in Mass Effect to keep the Krogan from breeding?
Genophage.
The genophage.
Yeah, it's something very similar to the genophage with the Argonians, and the Argonians think the Khajiit did it, and I don't think the Khajiit did it on purpose, but it's something like that. And there's like a massive war and like wedge between those two races, and they have never touched on it, or like they've never touched on it mainly. You've heard them talk about it, but there's never been a game focusing on that, and that would be something very interesting to go and see because you could actually get a lot of good stuff out of that.
Oh, apparently I just got a notification on my phone that Bethesda has announced another Skyrim port.
Oh yeah, it officially has the most ports of any game.
The Skyrim Anniversary Edition. It's coming out for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, PC, Switch players. No, Switch players can't get it, unfortunately.
I will say...
Here's
the thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
I will defend Bethesda constantly porting Skyrim to every single thing. because it's a game they know, and that they use it as a testing bed to see for new architecture.
And it is a good game.
I will defend them on that.
Good game.
I will defend them on that they do it so they can figure out how they have to program new games for this new architecture. And see what has a conniption.
And it's a plus that it is a legitimately good game. Not spectacular, but at least good.
All right. Anyway, we are 2 minutes left. Let's see how fast we can go because she hasn't really.
Also, quick question. Also, the real question is which has more ports, Skyrim or Sonic 1?
It's Resident Evil 4 has 11 separate ports. Skyrim has 12.
You know what? I might just look by the time we finish this Smudcast, I might just look up how many Sonic 1 has.
All right.
Just to see.
Let's go.
Pen to your very birth sign and follow a narrative that stems from what personality you want to project onto the gameplay. There's a difference between the two in that one is a world and one is a personal experience, and whilst both do mesh and cross over, that is a key difference between the two games. It's up to you. Fight trolls, nuke giants, or do neither. The world of gaming is exactly what you want to take from it, and whilst I am certifiably Dragons over Deathclaw's son, you might have a completely different opinion. Of course, this boils down to exactly what you want from a game too. It's just undeniable.
Challenge, fun, interactivity, entertainment in general. Fighting a dragon is boring. I'm sorry. The first few times it's awesome, and then it gets very boring very quickly.
The dragon AI is terrible.
They're too weak. Deathclaws are always deadly. They will always nearly kill you, even when you have all the best gear.
Yeah. I mean, in Fallout 76, the Scorch Beasts, they're just better dragons. They're smarter. They have better AI. They fly around better, as weirdly as that say. They don't randomly freak out. Like, it's just a better dragon to fight.
It's an issue of balance. I know there's mods out there that you can get for making survivability very difficult and challenges being more realistic. That's fine. But they designed it originally to be this way. They haven't patched it out. It's still the same. You could become an overpowered monster that nothing can stop you. It's like, I don't find that very interesting.
That the Elder Scrolls will offer something completely game-changing in whatever setting it comes across in. There is so much scope for this game and so many possibilities that it is eye-watering to think about. Again, I should stress...
I would say no. I mean, Skyrim is big enough, and it's not about the company making it. It's about the mods that come out for it, which is the community, and how, unfortunately, Bethesda hasn't been very good at that for facilitating the community growth of independence to people to make their own stuff. I'm very curious what Starfield's like, because that, to me, sounds it could be bigger and more robust.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anything, Skyrim or Elder Scrolls 6 is probably going to be, more of the same. It's going to be Elder Scrolls again, maybe on a better engine this time.
An updated version of the same engine, probably, with better rendering capabilities because of all the new hardware that came out last year. But yeah.
I mean, 76 is on the Creation Engine as well, and it's already it looks better than Skyrim and Fallout 4.
Oh, for sure.
Like, they have the rendering distance on there is you can see clean across the map, and you can see weather happening clean across the map.
Patched the hell out of 76 for years now. So.
Oh, I mean, my point being, it's the same engine. Like they are fixing the engine. The engine, and for all the gremlins that it has, the Creation Engine can still do a lot when they, get it to work properly.
When they get their heads out of their asses and put it in the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, this game needs another year. Oh, right, we didn't think of that.
And the only reason I keep using 76 is because it's the most recent Skyrim game.
Yeah.
Technically, I could use Elder Scrolls Online, but I haven't played that in at least a year, so.
That I fantasy fangirl, you might be a science fiction bitch. that is fine. Either is fine. Both are fantastic. I love science fiction too. There is stuff to be gained from both of them. But The Elder Scrolls is a fantastic game, and in my opinion, it definitely pushes its weight above Fallout, offering beautiful landscapes, intricate personal storytelling, and thousands of years worth of lore to explore. Wait.
I thought her contention for why the story of Elder Scrolls is better is because it's bigger and more grand scale and you're shaping the entire world. And the Fallout story is more contained and about individuals surviving a post-apocalypse.
And books.
And now she's saying that Elder Scrolls story is better because it's more personal.
I mean, it's personal in the sense that it makes your character very much the rando, I'm the most important character in the world for some bizarre reason. Even when there's no reason for them to be.
Yeah, with the Courier, we know exactly why they're important. And
yeah, because it's about you. I mean, it's about you, but it's not everything pointing at you. It's just you are the person who survived, so you're going to get revenge.
Anytime you're involved in a DLC, it's all about you. You are that variable that was unexpected, and now you could do a lot of good or bad depending on your choices. And
like with Old World Blues, it could have been any random Wastelander.
Anyone who could survive all of that.
Yeah, and there were people that happened to that just randomly wandered in, but they didn't survive Big Mountain. Same with Dead Money. There was a lot of people that came in before you. None of them survived.
Oh boy!
Except for the two companions.
Everything is involved with the main character in New Vegas. You're not the focus, but you are the variable that either messes up plans or causes things to be enacted.
Yeah. you're the weight that tips the scale in whatever direction you want it to.
You're not the prime mover, but you're the energy behind everything going into motion. And it's up to you to decide how you want the world to end up as a result of the platinum chip. And you have full authority. I can go to Yes Man. I can go to House. I can go to Kaiser. I can go to, well, not really the Brotherhood. There's no Brotherhood ending. You could just sign up with them, I guess. But
yeah, that is one thing that's kind of a downer, is that there's no way to get the Brotherhood to...
Yeah, that's another thing pissed me off. Like, why not? They seem like they need help. This is a great opportunity for them to get power.
You do help them and raise them back up, and they will come and assist you.
But then they...
During the final fight with them.
Which I did.
So it's a tragic ending with the Brotherhood. I always never liked. Oh, it's fine that they can screw up and fall on their face, but it's always like, well, if I have this control, shouldn't I be able to manipulate them if I'm clever enough? But they never play around with that.
Yeah.
It's never like, Veronica, you and I are very smart. We can manipulate Elijah or whoever to get these guys back on their feet, to grow up. And it never goes beyond that. I'm like, oh, come on.
I mean, it's like you kind of do that, but there's no ending for them.
It's always ends poorly with them, in fact.
Yeah, I bet you there was an ending that never got finished, so it was never...
Yeah, I'm sure they played around with...
It feels like a dead end that they meant to finish and never got around to.
Yeah, it's the same with the Enclave, yeah.
Yeah, what I would love, not even just a remake, but at least a release with all the unfinished content finished and pushed into that would be a Fallout New Vegas I would play through again.
A complete edition would be nice. All DLC.
Yeah, able to do that shit.
Yeah, maybe put in some mods that were really great that just added to the experience.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of great stuff out there. That's why these games are so good now. The mods make up for them. Doesn't matter if it's Skyrim or Obsidian. I
mean, it's not entirely a bad thing, though.
No, it's what makes the games better. And that's the funny thing with Mass Effect, when they came with the Legendary Edition, and apparently they were using the community mods, people who made them, for consultation. And unfortunately, they didn't do enough because the mods that came out years ago, like almost a decade ago, were better than Legendary Edition for just basic texture maps, which is bizarre.
Which is my guess for why I think right now the original versions of the trilogy are still up.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw the comparison videos. I'm like, that looks much better from 8 years ago than it does now.
That could very well be the reason why both versions are still up at the same time. Because usually with remasters, they knock down the original before the remaster comes out, which I fucking hate.
Well, the funniest thing I read was, I think last month, the guy, I don't know what it was, a mod for Miranda, but whatever happened, he ended up bringing the camera angle back to what they were. And I don't know why, but he reluctantly had to do it because it looked better. It was like all that stupid crap.
Yeah, because guess what? When you specifically set up a scene and then you move the camera, it ruins the scene.
It ruins the angle. Yeah, it's like, let's bring it back to what it should be.
Yeah, like the most notorious one is the Dark Souls remastered. They pulled down the original game. You can't get the original Dark Souls anymore.
Oh.
You can only get the remastered.
Yeah, it's for a lot of remasters, which it also surprises me that Warner Brothers never released Return to Arkham on PC.
That's because you mean not Return to Arkham? It was Arkham Knight.
No, Arkham Knight was a separate thing, but I mean, like, Return to Arkham is Asylum in City. I'm surprised they never had the balls to release Return to Arkham to replace Asylum in City on PC. It baffles me.
Here is Ram of the Meme. You could save the Brotherhood of Steel by telling the Elder to help the NCR. I don't remember that ending because I always choose House. And the House, he isn't like the Brotherhood, so they got to go.
I think that's more so a gameplay thing, like during the final section, rather than part of the actual ending. I think. I'd
have to check that out.
Like the Brotherhood does not have like a credit role.
They don't have a dedicated section in the ending. That's the thing.
Yeah. Anyway, we got 40 seconds. I'm sure it's just all going to be credits or whatever.
Yeah.
Bethesda has proven time and time again that the entries into the series will rise up to the challenge and dar it into tiny little pieces. The next proper title of either of these games will herald something we've never seen before. But whilst we wait for either to arrive, it is the Elder Scrolls that looks like it's going to be able to grow and please its audience and not be constrained by its setting. You can read more about this on a more detailed article.
But it is constrained by its setting. The setting of Tamriel.
Yeah. She could have made the exact same argument for Dragon Age or any other game, really.
It's not like in the Elder Scrolls we're suddenly going to go to space unless that's what Starfield is.
Well, we are hoping we go to space in Starfield. We have no idea. Could just be one.
I mean, it'd be weird if it was called Starfield and we're underground.
You never know. Who knows?
and never see a single goddamn star.
Anyway.
What a twist!
Yeah. Do we have any stream memes? Let me check them out. Let's see.
Probably not.
My guess is there isn't too many.
Yeah, this is a pretty straightforward video. It wasn't that hard to go through. Oh, we got some. Look at that. Rama. Hey, Rama, you're doing stream memes. Thank you. Skyrim gamer girls be like, how do you do, fellow gamers? It kind of feels like that. I'm going to argue that my bias towards fantasy genres are better than your liking of Fallout. Okay. Shepard, you have to mow my lawn. It'll help defeat the Reapers or something. The Reapers, of course I will. It's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it. No thanks. Sarcastic? What the hell?
I think that was like somewhat pointing at like the 3 different ways to say yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Play a Bethesda game for the story. Play a Bethesda game as a platform for mods. Hey, that's a good point.
Yes, it's true.
Ew, they remade us in Skyrim. Oh my gosh, is this game even relevant? You finally awake? Yes. That's all it takes. Attractive mods, I guess. They're out there. I just don't know them all because I don't play Skyrim. But
There's a lot of good ones, yeah.
I need to find the water chip. I need to find the Gek. I need to find my dad. I need to find my son who shot me in the head. Yeah, that's the
Oh
plot.
yeah, because you doesn't the player courier get amnesia technically?
Well, he knows it's the
No, they
guy
know
in the
they
checkered suit.
they know
right?
exactly who did it. They just don't know his name.
Yeah, and they find out it's
Oh, the
Benny.
name. Okay.
He's one of the
The one below it.
He's one of the houses or part of the on the strip. So simple plot, just don't know it yet. You don't know what's going on yet. You learn and learn. It gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Again, the elite NCR armor is just
Oh no.
perfection.
There we go. Passing notes in class.
Preston, no.
Another settlement needs your help. Thanks,
Oh,
Preston.
one of the best ones I've seen is because in 4, Preston has a don't tase, or no, that's in New Vegas, sorry. It has like the you can't kill him. So he'll just keep coming at you and someone just put the Terminator music, the dun 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 music in the background of him just charging ahead at you.
So what? Basically the Mr. X of Fallout.
Yeah, because there was also a glitch that someone had found where Preston would just keep following them around the wasteland and wouldn't leave them alone. Because normally you could just send them to a settlement and it'll stay put. But for some bizarre reason, he glitched and wouldn't go away. He could still get more companions, like the normal amount, but he would always be following behind.
Combined with the fact that you can't kill him.
Yeah.
So guys literally only want one thing, and it's effing disgusting. And the dialogue is, "Give me that sweet roll you got from old lady Palmer."
Hey.
All right.
Okay.
Me, I'm going to bed early today. Also me at 4 a.m. Wandering around Blackreach. I don't need sleep. I need Nern roots.
Is that Elder Scrolls?
Is that?
Yes, the glowing plant that you see all over the place in Skyrim. That's Nern root, and I think that's referencing from the Elder Scrolls Online for crafting and stuff. I'd assume.
Oh, online, yeah.
Where's my dad? Where's my baby? Where's my refund? Ooh. Kill a dragon to save a city and nobody bats an eye. Unintentionally kill a chicken and everyone loses their minds. That guy who killed the dragon, let's mug him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's every time that happened in Skyrim. I always said,
This
like,
is about to go poorly for you.
you are morons.
Yeah,
It's
Skyrim
fucking-
gets pretty weird.
That's just straight up like it's just.
It's just one of those
fucking
video
stupid.
game things where it's like, all right then.
Why would you mug the fucker that just killed the dragon in Whiterun? You moron.
Media saying video games cause violence. Me building a house for my wife and kids in Skyrim. Oh, you turned it into Animal Crossing, I guess.
forget that was a DLC expansion. I forgot the name of it.
The home building one, yeah.
Here's Tamriel. Non-Americans are like, ooh. And, yeah.
Yeah. Fucking stupid.
American cities, what are those? I don't know. Not real life. Post-nuclear apocalypse nation. Real life flying dragons and talking cute cats. Yeah. Look, Skyrim has thousands of years of lore, but Fallout has the history of humanity. Yeah, but Fallout has 200 years of humanity's history, right? 200 years only,
Oh.
right?
The one below it is great.
The next one.
Going to Fallout after months of Elder Scrolls. Going to Elder Scrolls after months of Fallout. What the hell is that? A chicken? A duck? What is that?
He's holding the duck, and I'm very curious. What is that shit? What is that screenshot from? I am very interested in knowing what that screenshot is from.
For all we know, it's probably some Monty Python bullshit. I'm calling
Probably
it now.
is. That is, you're not wrong. You're probably not wrong.
It looks as weird as anything from Monty Python.
Yeah.
The Elder Scrolls is better than Fallout because the color palette is more colorful, the fantasy setting is more relatable, and the self-insert protagonist is more generic.
Oh.
Oh my god. We are pleased to announce the arrival of Skyrim on a new platform.
See, here's the kicker: someone has probably already figured out how to put that thing on a T80.
TI-84.
What was the one that? Oh no, the one I was thinking about is what was it? Doom on a pregnancy test.
Oh yeah.
That made my day when I learned about that.
Alex Halo.
Like what the fuck?
Oh, I missed the end of the video.
Yeah, don't worry. There's nothing.
Yeah, that's
there.
fine.
Was it an ad for Raid Shadow Legends?
No, she
No,
just
it was just
called
more
him a
like
bitch for
Self promotion.
like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of these days, it's going to be Raid Shadow Legends.
Has it
no.
been?
I think Raid Shadow Legends mandates it has to be within like the first minute and a half of the video.
Is it?
So
I
it's
have
never
no
going to
idea.
be
I mean,
because if that was the case, everyone would just start to do that because they know people just skip through it or ignore it. So
So here's Alex Halo. Will you please listen? I'm not the Weeb Emperor. And this is a Life of Brian scene. Lit Dev, Glib, Shiny, and the rest of us plebes or plebs. He is the Weeb Emperor. Okay. we still think that. We're not wrong. And another
And a
Alex
follow-up.
Halo. Memes about Alex Halo being Weeb Emperor. And we have, instead of Obama putting a medallion on Obama's neck, it's
from that game series where it's
Neptunia.
like consoles personified.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't think of the name.
Neptunia.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Neptunia.
Hyperdimension Neptunia.
All right. Oh my God. Well, we did about 2 hours and a half. Exactly. Fantastic.
Hey, I called it.
Yeah, you did.
I'm so good at this.
Well, we
It
padded
says
it
more
out.
when we had more to say than they did.
Yeah,
in 8 minutes.
well, we knew the arguments weren't going to be very good. So
That's fair.
Well, yeah, like I said at the beginning, it was more going to be a springboard to discuss the two series than it was going to be real serious argumentation in an 8-minute clickbait video.
yep.
At least
and-
they didn't go with the Elder Scrolls has magic.
Well, she liked the fantasy magic setting genre more than she likes post-apocalyptic America because she's not
that
American.
was part of what it came down to. She's not American and she prefers fantasy to sci-fi.
That's it. Yeah.
Well,
Ergo.
prefers traditional hard fantasy rather than sci-fi.
Well, yeah, but not arguing the points of let's compare this character or this leader of this group to that leader of this group. It's like,
Yeah.
why not? Why couldn't you do that at least? That seems pretty straightforward. There's lots of characters in Skyrim. Do they add up to the characterization in any of the Fallout games? I would say
that's kind of the problem.
in 2.
There's lots of characters in Skyrim.
Yeah, but in
don't
the earlier games,
matter.
you could compare. You'd say there's not enough in 1 and 2. There's just enough, but not enough to say this guy is unique or very memorable, even after all these years. But with New Vegas, with 4, with Preston, like there's always weirders.
Every Fallout or every Elder Scrolls or Fallout game, has more characters in it than all of Elder Scrolls combined. Just
Memorable ones, yes.
memorable ones,
Memorable,
just
yes.
even ones that people can like call back to as like a thing.
And in some cases, if Elder Scrolls does have memorable characters on an off chance, it can be for the wrong reasons.
Right. Well,
Like
Fallout,
the first
You
Dragonborn,
don't
which
remember.
like the first Dragonborn, which I can't shut up about.
yeah. So
you,
we have
you don't remember any of the Elder Scrolls characters for how compelling they are. Most of the memorable Elder Scrolls characters are memes.
yeah, they're ridiculous.
And some of them tend to be from DLCs as well.
But God,
Yeah.
you play any of the DLCs in New Vegas, you're in for a great ride. Characters, storytelling,
I'll-
action.
I'm looking forward to it whenever I
God,
eventually
yeah.
get back to New Vegas.
I would recommend playing Honest Hearts, then going to Old World Blues, and then the other ones are pretty decent. They're not as amazing, but they're fun. And
Just
the challenge.
play Dead Money last. Dead Money is
Dead,
the
yeah.
one to play last.
It's not.
Not because it's
Nah,
good, because it's the
Nah.
case of they're all really good.
Yeah, you know what? The only
Dead
thing
Money is the worst.
I don't like about that is they tried to tie in Veronica's teacher, whatever, mentor person.
Yeah.
And it never really you get he dies or whatever, but it never really changes anything. It's just
it's like in Final Fantasy 14. All the story is really great, really great. All the expansions are really, really great, except Stormblood. Stormblood is the worst of all of them. It's still good.
Is great. The premise is great.
Isn't Stormblood the very first one?
No, that's it's A Realm Reborn, Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers. Stormblood is the weakest of those story wise. But it's not. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just the weakest.
I personally don't count A Realm Reborn. A Realm Reborn is just Final Fantasy 14 2.0.
I mean, like the story of each of the the separate stories.
Story-wise, yes, and it's an expansion. But game-wise, it's just 14 2.0.
Well, yes. But I was more speaking like the story is the weakest of all those. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's the least.
And I do know that. I do know that the original 14 is canon, or and it gets relegated to the backstory of A Realm Reborn.
I mean, it's within the lore of the world. It happened. It's not just it didn't just ignore it.
Yeah, the original 14 ended up becoming the backstory for the new version, which I do like.
Anyway, guys, these games are great. Go out and check them out if you haven't already. I'm sure everyone I've ever mentioned or talked to on Smudcast has definitely played these games. They're huge. There's all kinds of mods for them. They still stand up today for fun and entertainment and role playing. So
for franchises like these that have such a juxtaposition between one another, it's ultimately a matter of preference.
And the music, the sounds, the acting, these are all good in each of these games. It's just that in some they're more memorable, in others they're not. And that's all there is to it. Play the games for whatever you like, for whatever reason. Have a good time. And, keep the suggestions coming. I mean, we love talking about this stuff. It's one of our favorite pastimes. So hopefully Bethesda will treat us next year with Starfield come December, or is it November? They'll probably push it back.
And hopefully any kind of news about ES6.
Yeah, well.
Or Fallout 5.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm excited for a Fallout 5 anymore.
If Obsidian is involved, yes, I would be.
I mean,
Obsidian does still know what they're doing.
Well,
with what's coming out with 76, it's like the story in 76 isn't terrible in all the DLCs as well. It's not bad.
We're not denying that 76 did eventually get better. It's just the first impression just stuck that much.
Oh no! I'm just saying story-wise, if it's hopefully because 76 was just supposed to be a side game, so they didn't put the A team on. They didn't put the main developers on it. They relegated to a studio in Austin who takes care of it now, or who takes care of it.
Well, just keep in mind.
The last main series game is definitely 4.
Just keep in mind. Was it 2 years ago? Microsoft also bought out Obsidian. So
yes. That's why everyone was excited that maybe we might get a New Vegas 2 or a New Vegas remaster, because now
it's possible.
Both companies are under.
I wouldn't mind.
But is anyone going to work with Chris Avellone again?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind. He's fighting back, but he's still kind of in that the Me Too limbo. So
yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, since they bought out Obsidian, I wouldn't mind the New Vegas remaster, and then reveal that Obsidian is also going to make Fallout 5.
They can't lose talent.
That would be interesting.
Like Chris, they realize how much money he could pull in, and there's no way they're going to let that go. So
New Vegas is the de facto example of that.
Well, we're waiting for what's that game that's been pushed back for years now? The zombie action parkour. The hell's it called? I can't remember. But it's coming out this year apparently. So, damn it, what's it called?
Not Dead by Daylight. It's something. It's the sequel to the other one, isn't it? The one with the zombie parkour. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Dying Light.
Dying Light, yeah, Dying Light 2.
There we go. So we'll see how that turns out. Anyway, guys, thank you for all your suggestions. Keep them coming. Tomorrow is Friday. which means it's the second week of the end of the month, from the end of the month rather, and that is our Renegade Cut Day. So don't worry for voting
fun.
tomorrow. Yeah. Well, actually, no, you can vote if you want. We'll probably.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's horrible, we'll just pick another one, but they're all bad, so we have to.
I'll try to join.
Yeah, we got to be careful with that. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Have yourself a great evening, and take it easy. Bye-bye now.
New Vegas is best Fallout.